Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Otani launches left center field. This ball is at the wall. Did that go off of a fan? It's in play, and Rushing is racing around from first to score.
After review, the call is overturned. It is a home run.
Hit hard. A lot of responsibility with Haliburton now. Damon Williams, good defense to force the turnover. Caruso harassing him. Good screen set by Turner. Turner gets himself free. Three-pointer. It's good. Miles Turner nails the three, struggling all finals from that distance. And the game is tied again. SGA tries to answer and does. The pass. Williams open three. That one bounces in. Timeout, Indiana.
Oh my goodness, he just threw Kevin Schnall out of the game. Wow. In the bottom of the first inning, the home plate umpire throws Kevin Schnall out of this game, and down goes an umpire who had come in to get in the middle of things. This could be two in the game. Dickinson, Milam, and that's it. Tiger Town is Title Town again, as the boys bring the 8th World Series title back to the Bayou.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centrus Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
How we doing?
Oh, we're doing all right.
Just all right. All right.
Yeah, I think we're doing better than Kevin Schnall this morning.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't like it. I wasn't really happy with either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Schilling, Schnall, or certainly not the umpiring crew. But boy, I was kind of torn. I thought it was a Mickey Mouse ejection.
Oh, yeah.
A real Mickey Mouse ejection.
Kangaroo court situation here.
And I got that from my dad. I used to never know what that meant, Mickey Mouse. But anyway, listening to the presser and kind of getting his explanation, and then kind of doing a deep dive into the history of that crew.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to ride with Schnall on that one.
Yeah, Campos has a history of being a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a Wikipedia page with incidents on it.
And it's funny too because of the coaches, a few of the coaches that he's gotten into it with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of those guys are legendary temper guys.
There's a Ned Yost one in there.
Well, then he's got one with Vitello.
Yeah.
He's got Corbin.
Yeah. There's some in the majors too. There's several in the majors too.
So it's like,
yeah, like a Vitello one, I'm like, man, probably got to give the benefit of the doubt to the.
So
that's
the balance, right?
But
I like Vitello though. Yeah. And I know he revs hot.
Schnall.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
And you could clearly see it was, you missed 3 of them. He said it twice too.
Yeah.
Like you missed 3 of them. And sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I think for that one, and it was a travesty too, because he got the level 2. So even if they won yesterday, he'd be sitting today, which I thought was
it's nuts.
Was ludicrous.
I mean,
ludicrous.
I do think Schnall revs a little hot. I also think he revs hot in a very different way than Tony V.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I also umps just need to be better than this. I get by the letter of the law, you can run a guy for talking about balls and strikes. I get that. Also, it's the first inning of a championship game. Maybe have a little thicker skin than that.
Yeah.
Both those
and
things.
Campos is the one that called for time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It felt like he was consistently escalating and instigating the situation. And you don't like that hanging over. We had a couple things, obviously very different ways. We had a couple things hanging over championships yesterday that kind of bummed me out.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's
we'll get to the other.
Yeah, the Schnall ejection, we'll get to Haliburton, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to. And let's be fair, it was a bad strike zone.
Oh, 100%.
It was a very bad strike
100%.
zone. You have to have a little bit of self-awareness. If if I feel like I'm having a pretty good game as an umpire
Mhm.
and a guy's all over me about it, maybe I'm a little less patient.
Grace or probably don't go there. Swallow your pride over the you don't shoe another grown man.
I would think, but at the point in which he did it, which was very early on, that's probably not the way to go. That's like an escalating.
Yeah,
Like everybody's got a lot of pride there.
I just try to put myself in those situations, and if I'm keeping it a buck, man, that would set me off.
Mm-hmm.
It just would. Short of, I just try to go through all the things that I've been
disrespectful
that
and
I've been
dismissive.
through, and typically I'm always at my worst when when it's about lack of respect.
Yeah.
I'm always at like you can, and it's weird too because sometimes it's not even what is said. It's more like how you're treated.
Mm-hmm.
The words
can come and go.
Kind of for me, yeah. Like even as a guy that's relatively sensitive, but it's the prolonged how you're treated that can get me to really make some dumb decisions. You know what I mean? And so you're thinking, I was almost found myself in agreement with the shoeing, even though it sounds petty. I'm like
in agreement with Schnall that the shoeing was unnecessary.
I could see where it would
set somebody off.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
It's like, I've this is super minor relative to some of the really, really dumb things I've done, but I go back to UCLA where why did what T.O. said bother me so much? Hey, you didn't bother to show up. Why don't you come sit and be a spectator like the rest of us? Just kind of cold, matter of fact, calculated. I wish he would have yelled or been upset or been like, why can't something other than that delivery?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can recreate that in my head. And I mean, it literally sent me into a spiral. Now, if he would have
like chewed you out,
if it had been more Coach Solici and just got chewed out, I probably respond better.
So
but it took months.
You know what I think it is? When somebody is, especially in a situation like that, which is a little different than the ump and Schnall thing.
Well, I'm talking about high competition.
No, for sure.
A lot of eyes. You're competing at the highest level.
Yeah.
Those things are all consistent.
Oh, for sure. I think in a situation like where you're talking about where there's a relationship there, I think part of the reason
it's real premature.
Yeah.
It's early. I mean, I'm a redshirt freshman.
I think when somebody reacts calmly like that instead of yelling, it's almost like they expected it from you, which is so much worse, right? Like if you get an emotional reaction, it's like, man, you let me down.
Yeah.
Right? But if they come in and you're like, yeah, I kind of saw this coming. Why don't you go have a seat? Like that's where it really, I think, that's where it would get me.
Yeah. So I think it's just interesting how like personality types totally can dictate.
Yeah.
Even in the heat of the moment and things that may seem innocuous or not as egregious. It just depends on what moves people's needles in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people are okay with like the slow bleed, right? Some people want it over with. Just so.
Some people like rip the Band-Aid, get it over with.
The psyches in high leverage situations are always fascinating for me because I do just not only on the macular or the macro, but the micro too is you try to. Well, how did we get here? That's big how we got here, guy.
That's the thing that I keep coming back to is how did we get here? Because best case scenario with the shoeing motion and with Campos like continually escalating and instigating and calling time and sort of making sure that it was a thing. Best case scenario is that the coach reacts incredibly well, is incredibly well tempered, and you get away with it if you're Campos.
Mm-hmm.
There is no positive resolution if you're choosing those steps. The only positive resolution is I got to show up the coach, which ironically is the exact thing that Schnall ended up getting run for, right? Like the exact thing that coaches are not allowed to do to the umps, that players are not, you can argue balls and strikes if you're a player as long as you don't turn your head, right? You'd be like, hey, where was that? What's going on here? Do not turn your head and look at the ump, right? That's just about the ump's ego 100% of the time. That's all it is.
Did you see what happened in the Cubs game? When a catcher got ejected?
No, I didn't watch Cubs yesterday.
Very, I don't know if it was yesterday. I'm getting all my days blurred, but basically a framing of balls and strikes and it just being held there without saying a word.
Yeah. And how you can do one beat but not two.
It's
like a thing, right?
Yeah, it's totally a thing.
Like you can sit there and be like, one Mississippi, but you better move the glove by that point.
And then he never turned his back to the official, or to the umpire, but apparently mumbled something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I am kind of speculating.
Allegedly.
But it's just, I'm telling you, it's almost like.
But I've seen catchers get run for holding at an extra beat, right? So like the fragilest of egos then expects everybody else.
See, that's where I'm trying to kind of be careful because
I think as a profession, umpires have pretty fragile egos.
I get it. But I do think there are certain triggers that people respond to that may be perceived completely different from outsiders. So, certain things will really, really upset me or can really move my needle. Yet you can say to me sometimes, man, you'll put up with a lot, and there's always the good piece of cheese, right? You just the threshold is different
for everybody in every situation.
So I'm always a little reluctant to talk about the thickness of people's skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. Here's where I have a problem is it seems whether they have thick skin, thin skin, fragile egos, no egos at all, I do think there is a consistency amongst umpires that they expect a level of respect that they do not have to return.
Yeah.
That's the thing with me.
The two-way street, man, is
like, hey, if we're saying absolutely we're not doing this, we're not showing anybody up, but then you also don't shoo away a head coach, I can live with that. I'm okay there.
The two-way street is real. Boss, employee, parenting, couples, coach, player, especially in 2025 heading into 2026, because at some point, and I think it's probably, I don't know, it's hard to pinpoint the exact time period. But I said this once during a segment. We were talking about something else with, maybe it was youth sports or something, or parenting. And I said, for whatever the reason, we've long moved past the because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when parents used to say, well, because I said so.
Yeah.
Or somebody used to, I don't know if what we got this inquisitive generation and needed to know the why, and you found yourself getting into explanations. But at some point we lost the whole because I said so.
Yeah.
It just is not good enough anymore. And I think you see that a lot because there are some people that still operate in that continuum. Well, I am such and such, hear me roar because I said so.
Yeah.
Right? Or the respecting of authority. But the more you see people that don't act like you would associate them with what you associate them with, the more explanation I think you need, and you get away from the because I said so thing.
It erodes at the inherent trust, right? There was a time where we just respected a position of authority as much as we did the person in the position, right? And so we would just conflate the two together. And if you got that position for whatever reason, you were automatically given that amount of respect. And
how much of it has to do with the fact Campos is notorious for running hot?
So I didn't know that until after.
Okay.
I didn't look it up until after because I was like, that was weird. So I started Googling the guy because I was like, I wonder if there's a history of this, right? And then some people sent me some stuff as well, like articles or whatever. And so I didn't know until in the moment it felt super strange. Like it felt really, really strange. I was like, I don't totally understand what happened there. And then, they're doing all the replays and stuff. And I'm starting to Google and figure out, okay, this guy sort of has this history of this allegedly, some people say fired from the MLB for having too quick of a trigger, stuff like that. Like, I didn't know any of that until after, because I'm not a big umpire, like learn about the umpires beforehand guy.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'll do it with the NBA some with refs, but I don't do it with umpires.
Oh,
unless there's like an Angel Hernandez situation or
just
something.
keeping it real. The bigger the game,
yeah,
the more you tend to pay attention to the crew.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's high school, college, the NFL, the
NBA. I certainly did it when I was coaching. I certainly did.
You pay attention to the crew.
And I do in the NBA because I feel like
it's, you don't want to say it, but I mean,
it matters.
Hey, what crew do we get what crew are we getting? What crew are we getting? What crew are we getting? And sometimes
it could change how the game's played.
It can dictate your behavior too, because
like, I got a little more leeway with this guy,
or you don't, or well, this is typically my communicating style, but these guys don't really ride.
That's not going to fly that with this one.
So you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not just as easy as saying, "Oh man, you should just act a certain way all the time." For some, it's just not like that.
No, because I mean, there's people, right? There's a variable there, but
the greatest of the variables are people,
without a doubt. But like, I'll look at NBA because stylistically, especially in a series like, and we don't have to move off college baseball yet, but especially in a series like this one with Indiana and OKC, like if OKC is going to be allowed to play defense a certain way, not a lot Indiana can do.
Yeah, I don't. When I hear that, I think you think OKC. It's not their fault,
but they play a particularly physical style of defense.
Yeah, but we've seen this evolution though, right? Your favorite player, your numero uno. We see how he gets treated.
Yeah, he gets hammered.
This has been a thing.
It has. But that's the reason.
So clearly it's not an OKC thing.
No, it's not. But in this particular
they're very good defensively.
Yes, absolutely.
But I mean,
but a tighter whistle favors Indiana in this series.
We're going on double-digit years.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. How many times you want to see SGA go to the line? I mean, careful now, like.
Yeah.
Nembhard and
McKewon,
they get away with a ton of holding ground and pickpocketing because they're allowed to use their hands. I mean, how many times you see SGA get stripped this series?
Yeah.
Because not only is he getting bodied, they're allowed to use their hands. I mean, hold and make a direct swipe motion.
That's fair.
Like,
that's fair.
It didn't just OKC. OKC is just a better defensive team.
I just saw Lou Dort push too many people.
And then get knocked over when doing good. Well, that guy's probably moving about. I don't know. Dort's a strong dude.
He is.
Dort is a strong dude.
Probably not naturally get knocked over a lot.
But the sad thing is I was saying this yesterday. Kind of lost in a little bit of this. You got to recalibrate. Is how opportunistic LSU is and was. Couple teams during a couple of stretches of this run left the door open, and they slammed that bad boy shut.
Yeah,
and so I can appreciate that at the same time. But
do you feel like LSU was the best team at the end of the day?
I do not.
So who would that have been, like, in your mind? Like, most complete, like, best baseball team?
I still feel it was Arkansas.
Okay. Even though they got them twice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
I mean, Arkansas had the best pitching staff, for sure.
I just think about, in KA, and St. Anderson but I said this real time, though. I felt like Arkansas deserved a better
result
in the first game, even though they only left 3 on base, right? So you're not really.
They didn't give a ton of opportunities.
You didn't get a ton of opportunities. Yeah. So let's say I tip my hat to Anderson in that one. They controlled the second game, start to finish.
Yeah.
Start to almost finish.
Start until 2 outs in the ninth.
It's like, man, and I just wanted to see the rubber match.
Yeah.
But LSU played the best baseball. That's not the question you asked me.
No, I thought who I want to know who you thought the best team was.
They played the best baseball.
Yeah.
Super opportunistic, timely. I felt like their defense was underappreciated.
Mm-hmm. Especially in contrast to what we saw Arkansas booted around a little bit.
They just didn't give you a ton of gimmies.
What was there a team that didn't make it to Omaha that you looked at and you go, man, like I'm still not sure they weren't just as good as everybody?
Yeah.
North Carolina?
Yeah.
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 That Arizona Super still makes no sense.
Yeah. Florida State is kind of in that discussion.
Yeah, the Oregon State, the trip out to Corvallis was a rough draw for them.
Yeah. So, but that's the beauty. It's one of the things that I like about sports is because I've learned to appreciate you have to catch a few breaks.
For sure.
You have to catch a few breaks.
Yeah.
It's just very few teams are able to just go and just
be
run
better than
just
everybody
run
else.
roughshod.
Yeah.
So I think, even Dorsey's year with that 0-1 Miami team,
mm-hmm.
People sometimes question their offense, and I'm like, really? No. Or 95 Nebraska. Do we catch a few breaks? Probably not.
Probably
really?
Didn't have to. 94 for sure.
94.
For sure. Bunch, right?
Yeah.
95, that was probably one of those teams you're like, yeah, just kind of ran roughshod.
Go back and look at some of the titles that teams have won professionally, and you think, were they playing opponents at full strength?
Well, I can just do it. Obviously, I'm a huge Warriors honk. Like 15 Warriors played against a Cavs team, no Kyrie, no Kevin Love, both got injured.
Yeah.
16, the breaks went the other way. They didn't get it. 17, 18, probably just ran roughshod over everybody with those KD years. 22, probably got a little lucky that there just wasn't a dominant team. That wasn't a great team that won that title, right? So half of them you just look at, kind of just got the breaks there, right? But that's how it works.
If Michigan plays a healthy Washington Huskies team at full throttle, or this run from OKC, just a laundry list of guys getting hurt.
Yeah. Or just take one, just be like, what if Haliburton just doesn't get hurt in Game 7?
Yeah, I don't
know.
Here's the thing about that is, all I know is we were robbed of them playing the Pacers at the best. I'm not one of those guys that thinks because a guy had 9 points in 7 minutes.
Oh yeah, you're not going to extrapolate.
I'm not extrapolating,
right?
Because
But we didn't get the game we should have got.
Yeah,
and it could have gone the other way. I don't know if it would have, but it could have gone the other way.
It just.
And the emotions, you brought up the human.
You think I don't want to go back and get 96 Texas?
Yeah.
You think I don't want a healthy Dom Rizak? And
not the entire
22?
Team having the flu?
Yeah, you could do this. You could play
all
this
day.
game all day long. So it's just safe.
And that's just part of it.
It's just safe that I don't.
Yeah, it's just part of it.
And
long-term, nobody really remembers. If you win the ship, individuals will.
Yeah.
But as a society,
yeah,
we don't really remember the circumstances.
Not everybody's going to have the same recall.
Yeah. Celtics fans will remember Jason Tatum popping the Achilles in the games against New York, but in general be like, oh man, New York made the conference finals. Nobody's going to.
Right.
The vast majority of us don't get into the minutia of it all.
No, there's probably some truth to that.
And so I only remember the Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving thing because I'm a Warriors fan, right? So I was really dialed in. But
as they keep doing the lip,
showing
you missed 3 pitches. I don't get the gate from Schilling, but
I don't either. I don't either.
Does 3 pitchers seem a little short though?
That early, and they were pretty.
Is there a leeway there?
They were pretty
egregious. A ramp up leeway.
Well, the ump's got to find his groove.
Ump's got to find his. Something. Just 3 pitches seemed a little short.
I don't think you're allowed a breaking in period in a game of that magnitude.
No,
which makes sense.
You gotta be on it from the jump.
But again, we saw guys overslide and overrun bases.
Mm-hmm.
We saw misplayed balls. I believe LSU hung another goose egg in the air box score, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So
they were pretty buttoned up this series.
Yeah, for
all business.
For as bad as I wanted everybody to be healthy in Texas, and I remember. Listen, I was an injection guy.
Mm-hmm.
Had several between the toes, the shin.
Oh, shin sounds unpleasant.
Nothing's worse than the big toe.
Really?
The worst.
That also does not sound pleasant.
To play, to not play. I played with cracked ribs. Wore the flak jacket against Colorado State. Coincidentally, the only reason I played in that game is coming off of Arizona State because I hurdled an idiot, like an idiot. Keep your feet on the ground, kids. Came down on the ball after a super long kickoff at the end of the half.
Oh, yeah, you told me this.
Yeah.
Like knocked the air out of you. You like couldn't breathe?
Yeah, just cracked this right along the inside of the sternum. Wore the flak jacket. Why'd I wear the flak jacket? Well, number one, because we were coming off a loss, and I really wanted to make amends for that, especially as a captain. But number two, with D'Angelo Evans and Amon playing, I wasn't really not trying to be out there. Right. So I just say that. I mean, I've seen guys lay it on the line from a health standpoint. I saw a really bad one in Carolina where I know a running back should have been playing in a preseason game coming off a then concussion, but in a hotly contested backfield race without Biaka Batuka. He played anyway. Missed a blitz pickup and got a guy smoked. In essence, it broke Kerry Collins' jaw. So I never, if a guy wants to play, I'm not a big save an athlete from himself guy. For whatever the reason, I don't rock that way.
I'm not in the pros. I will at a certain age.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean,
if I only coached 1 year of high school, but for high school, I for sure would. College is where I start to like, okay, maybe like if the guy wants to play, maybe we let him. Pros, it's all bets are off. Like this is your job, this is your decision. You're a grown adult. You do what you like. You make your decision. I'm gonna arm you or handicap you with the facts, depending on how you feel about it, and like we go from there. High school, like I said, I only coached 1 year, but high school, I am like, you're a kid. I probably need to make this decision for you.
Yeah.
But basketball is different than football too.
Yeah, and I'll give you a baseball one. I remember I got hit in took a ball off a bad lip at Gladiator Park and broke my nose. And I'm in 8th grade. I'm in middle school, and my face turns colors. And I remember I wanted to wear a protective.
Oh, like
guard.
a mask. Yeah.
My dad wouldn't let me. Didn't want me to get a false sense of security. Asked my mom, man. I almost lost my mind, and I didn't want to play. I didn't want to play short anymore. And he was just dead set on getting over it. And eventually, I did. But sometimes I think it's a fine line between the whole hurt versus injured, and then the magnitude of the moment, and what you can gain and learn from going through it too. Yeah. So all those dynamics, and some people that don't play, listen, man, let's be honest. We, the media, the fans, sometimes we don't let those people live it down. We've seen people retire in tennis matches, and we call them soft.
Yeah.
We've seen golfers break down after having bad rounds, and we're like, oh, man, you got to push through it. So,
shoot, how long do we do that to Tiger?
I'm really, really, really reluctant to judge. If we're talking about Haliburton in particular, I play that game 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
KD,
I think he would too.
KD would play that game 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting, though, when you go back to some of the things that Windhorst was saying about Haliburton before that game, and you and I were going back and forth, playing, not playing. Oh, I think he'll play, but how will we play? Oh,
I didn't think he was
the whole deal, right?
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to.
And Windhorst, about 4 o'clock, comes on television, and he says, look, he's playing. But I'm just telling you, typically, whenever you hear calf strain,
should be 3 weeks.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum.
And
he said up to 2 months.
Yeah.
They heard him are like, yeah, right.
Well, that's part of the reason when it happened, I go, yeah, that's why I didn't think he was playing.
Yeah.
Because it looked like
how many times
real calf strain
over this
not
last
like a twinge,
handful of years, certainly post-COVID since we've talked, where you'd say, are we sure that's a calf?
All
How many
the
times
time.
would you ask me that? About a multitude of
almost every time I see a calf.
Yeah. Are we sure that's a calf strain? I'm
because
like, what are you talking about?
They try and tell me how many I mean, they tried to tell us with KD, they tried to tell us with Haliburton. How many times they try
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, they try and tell me, hey, it's a calf, it's a calf, it's a calf. And then that guy blows his Achilles and they go, oh, different injury. And I go, is it? Is it a different injury?
Yeah.
Feels a lot like the same injury. At the very least, cousins. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, they are loosely related injuries.
He was wearing a sleeve, too.
Yeah.
So you can kind of over the calf.
Even though he didn't miss time for a calf, like you can kind of tell. And then you just go, okay, how many times is this going to happen before we realize the calf and the Achilles are actually related? I don't know if you know this, they attach to each other.
Yeah. Kobe had the infamous calf strain.
Yeah. It happens way too frequently. And listen, I'm not a doctor. Anecdotally, it happens a lot to not be related at all.
Yeah. I remember even for kind of the lay, I talked about a guy that I had developed a relationship that worked at the same gym I did.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little older, but he was big time at AOI.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked out at the same gym, and he'd been complaining about his calf on the treadmill for a handful of weeks. He plays pickup basketball. He comes back in the gym about 3 weeks later. He's on crutches, and I'm like, Mick, what happened? He's like, oh, man, tore my Achilles. That was probably 2000 maybe? 01? I mean, it was a minute ago.
Yeah.
And even then, but it's tough though. I admire him.
Yeah.
A ton. Just pushing through anything that makes you feel uncomfortable to come out of the backside. So I don't know, man. His season shot for next year. The NBA is
the East just got so. I'm going to tell you something so you're not going to like Rico quite as much, okay?
Rico?
Yeah, our guy Rico.
What'd Suave do to you? It's early.
Oh no, he didn't do anything to me. I just think it's a reflection of his poor character.
Suave needs a coach.
He does. I do keep asking about
in the draft this week. I guess you don't need a coach for the draft, but you certainly need one by July 1.
You should probably figure it out. So Rico, in all of his selfishness.
Oh man, I feel like there's some Suave slander.
It's not slander. It's a real thing that happened. He said he was in the tree of trust, but listen, it needs to be exposed here.
Oh, man.
As soon as it happened, as soon as the Haliburton injury happened, the minute it happened, he goes, can I say something without being judged? I said, go ahead, but I'm going to judge here a little. He goes, without Tatum and Haliburton, I think the Knicks could win the East next year.
Selfish.
Wow. As long as they have a head coach.
And immediately Austin, who was in the chat, he goes, who's your coach going to be? Rico, that's savage, man. Come on.
No, I get it, though.
I don't even think you made it to the locker room when you sent that text. I think he was still on the floor, pounding the floor like Tatum did.
Boy, tough crowd. Just vicious. But I do love the success story, though. I told you I just did the deep dive into Sam Presti because I remember, and I was going to message him because I know he is a fan, so I didn't know whether to say congratulations but I got a buddy, RK, who I met online. He was a Nebraska fan. He's famous and infamous.
Mm-hmm.
His social media account is Uncommon Sense, but bright guy. Met him a couple times. He popped up at a couple of Nebraska coaching clinics. I think he's down in Vegas still.
Okay.
But we would get into these great debates. This is years ago about Presti.
Mm-hmm.
This is right during the post-Harden move. And I don't know why the Presti thing came up.
Mm-hmm.
No, maybe like chimed in during the show or something when I was talking about moves. What a career, man.
Yeah.
For perseverance. Because
He kind of went through it.
Jeez.
Like he was vilified.
And he's doing it in, like, it's just an era that's not set up for how he's doing it.
Mhm.
Now, you can keep your big three.
Yeah.
But
even that's going to be challenging now.
With Shea, Chet, and J. Will?
Yeah, if
you can keep three.
But the rest of your roster is going to be brutal.
Well, they got assets. And if I'm those guys, I don't know. I don't like to talk about having my hands in other people's pockets, but I mean, would you
give a little?
Yeah.
Give a little back?
Would you give a little?
I'd certainly think about it. If I like playing with
would you give a little to be?
If I like playing with those guys.
And you're kind of built to be like, we've seen the analogy, you're kind of built to be like the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Spurs financially got to do it a different way.
Yeah. Different era of the CBA and everything.
Because this is not a very user-friendly CBA for long term.
No, especially if Jalen Williams or Chet make an All-NBA team, then they get in deep water in a hurry.
How about Chet's bounce back?
Man, what was it, game
What's a heck of
3?
A series of a roller coaster if you're Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, what was it, game 3? We're like, I think he needs to. I don't know if he's got it.
Yeah.
And then the last 4 games
found a different way to 2 out of the last.
2 of the last.
1.5 out of the last 3. He found.
I'm going to give him 2 of the last 3.
He found a way to
affect the game,
to really impact the game.
Yeah,
and I like those stories.
I still think he needs to get better offensively or a little stronger. You know? Like,
for sure.
There's some things he needs to do, but because that's what I said. I was like, yeah, he probably needs to get better still, and I think he will. He's young, and I really like his skill set. But I'll give him a lot of credit. He impacted the game in the way I didn't think he was currently capable of until he had an off season.
Suave would like permission to be happy.
Of course you can be happy.
Yes, you can be happy.
And when the Knicks run through a decimated East next year, you can be happy.
Gonna look a lot different.
I mean, what's Philly gonna do?
Certainly not trust the process. I didn't love the process analogy, and I DM'd Sean about. I said, the one thing that makes me different, the one thing I get pushback for the Philadelphia reference, is they were banking on the guys that OKC needed to be good, developed. The key piece to the process not working was Ben Simmons pooping the bed.
Yeah.
Like, let's.
There was a minute.
If Ben Simmons pans out, that process works.
And I want to make sure
could have worked.
I want to make sure we don't do too much revisionist history here because there was a brief moment where Ben Simmons was working out.
Yeah.
Right? Like makes third team All NBA and then he forgets how to shoot a basketball or even becomes unwilling to shoot a basketball. Like there was a point in which it's like, oh, they got it. They figured it out. And then the whole Ben Simmons has whatever crisis of confidence or whatever he has. And honestly, it still could have worked if Joel Embiid could play 60 basketball games in a season. And I don't think he's capable of it.
I didn't have any problems behind the philosophy of what Philly was trying to do. People have to help you. You need some help.
And I think you brought this up. I don't remember if it was on air or off air. But the biggest difference between OKC and Philly was OKC was actually still decent.
Yeah.
While they went through this. I think that's actually a huge difference.
That was me.
That was a huge difference.
Simmons got his talent stolen in Space Jam.
Honestly, it's what it looked like.
I watched that too.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
The second one is not good.
Yeah. If it was a show. 76ers pass on Jason Tatum. It's not Ben's fault. No, I understand. Like, this is clearly a dude that understands. Right?
Yeah.
As he's asking me about, New York interview Mark Jackson.
They trade up to 1 to get Markelle Fultz. Fultz doesn't work out. Like, honestly, the big difference is Presti's just way better at drafting than the Sixers were. I think so. Like, he hit on a lot of those picks.
Yeah, he's had some whiffs, too.
Like, he's not going to bat.
Generally, I'm not even going to die on that hill.
He's not going to bat 1,000.
I agree for the most part.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm all in the weeds here, man. My man had to come out of it. But I just like perseverance, right? I think, like you understand kind of when work and your personal life and all this stuff mixes, it's like perseverance, competitive stamina.
Yeah.
Right? You've got a job to do.
Put your head down, get through it.
Put your head down. Like you got to go
get to work.
Shane's guy yesterday, I was thinking of this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
What was the difference between Keegan Bradley and Tommy Fleetwood yesterday? Right? Keegan Bradley's got everything on the line. Ryder Cup hanging over his head, captain not to captain. I mean, Fleetwood's got the lead, and all of a sudden you just see this.
Just go to work.
I didn't even remotely think about feeling bad for Fleetwood. I found myself like, man, Keegan Bradley's got some stones.
Yeah, you're compelled.
Like, because I anticipate most people wilting.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And
I think statistically most people do.
So I don't get too much into that. I like to elevate people that can push through because that's the more rare skill.
For sure.
It's easy to quit. Yeah. The more rarefied, the set apart is actually mental toughness. Mm-hmm. So that's what I kind of always gravitate, because I expect people to will. I tell our guys all the time, man, you're fortunate to grow up in this day and age. Don't let anybody tell you any different, because now more than ever, it's about mental toughness. It's not even so much. It's a lot less. It's a lot less about physical ability. Mm-hmm. You should want that, especially if you just happen to be gifted. Yeah, and it's a bonus, right? There are lots of guys. I watch some of these competitive battles that are like going on in Lincoln, and there are several position battles, right? Got positions within a position, and I'm just trying to give a quick mental rundown here in my head. Almost to a battle. I think the actual skill will be secondary. It will be, can you compete every day and see who taps first? When I'm parsing through some of these individual position battles, it's going to come down to true, can you hang in there? I do. There's probably one or two where I'm like, that guy, if he just shows up, there's enough talent disparity where, I mean, they want you to win that job. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, hey, we need you to kind of.
Yeah, so I'm always rocking with the mind.
And honestly, that's a good place for the roster to be at, right? Where you don't just have to go with the most talented guy because you go, our second option is not going to cut it.
Yeah. So and again, like if we just fast forward and all this, we get into you like my two guys today?
Yeah, well, we got Coach Rhule here and my guy to kill shorts.
Yeah. What do they have? What do they have in common?
Well, I think they both got some competitive stamina.
Closing time. One last call for alcohol.
Closing. Always be closing.
I'll take B, C.
Got a new tight end in the room. Don't know if you know that.
Yeah. So, again, he said something about the recruiting process, and I guarantee you 98% of the free world that read it will roll their eyes.
Coach Rhule?
Sorensen.
Oh, Sorensen.
They cared about me more than just as a player. They care about me as a person. I can't give you enough examples.
Who was
I can't give you enough. Again, not sure how many games they'll win, but you want them functioning as a staff, how they're functioning on the recruiting trail. I'm just, again, don't know how many wins it yields, but philosophically, if they do win, they don't have to change the process. They'll just benefit from it. Seriously. The standard is the standard, whether they're winning or losing.
There was another guy who was in town this weekend. 4-star offensive tackle. Claude Mpuma. Excuse me. You know what he said about Coach Rhule?
I can only imagine.
And Nebraska? Our relationship is amazing. This is from Tim Verghese. Our relationship is amazing. I'm going to say he's more fluid. Nothing's forced. It's just natural.
Yeah.
It's comparing to all the other head coaches that he's talked to on official visits. Every single recruit.
Yeah.
Every single one. And then David Ainsworth's dad responded to that tweet and says, when everyone is saying the same thing, must be some truth to it. If recruits and their families don't want to fall in love with Coach Matt Rhule and the entire staff, then they probably shouldn't even visit.
It's not for you.
Like how many, like we've got David Ainsworth, or we've got Hayden Ainsworth's dad, David, who already committed.
How do you even get Nayland Scott to come back? I mean, have you seen Odom's Final Five? I mean, that would be a heck of a haul.
Yeah.
Right? You like Rhule, not Matt Rhule, Rhule at running back. I don't think he would be the only back. He might. I don't know. I don't know enough. I'm speculating here. But saying the same thing. They all say the same thing.
We hear it over and over and over again.
And the thing that I like the most, I'm just gonna keep coming back to it. Nebraska knows they're not operating in some cloud or in some, man, this is gonna sneak up on me. Like, they're well aware people are waiting for them to win before they absolutely are all in. They know that they need to win.
But what are we doing in the meantime?
Doesn't deter them in the meantime. I've heard him say it. Hey, listen, I get the hesitancy. I know we're not winning enough. I know we haven't been relevant enough. But we're hoping that if you see it doesn't matter to us, it shouldn't matter to you either. Give us time. Like,
yeah,
you don't have to go back and get that.
Yeah,
you don't have to go back and get that.
There's I don't want to say they take it for granted, the winning, because it is hard, and I think they've acknowledged that along the way. I do think they operate under this umbrella of, hey, we're going to win, right? So trust us on that. Like, you don't have to wait to see it. Like, we're telling you it's going to work. We're going to win.
That's what I said last week before Scott got there. Just on April 28th, April 29th, April 30th, that was a surprise. I said this, right? That was a surprise, right? Hines, those guys are good at what they do too. But staying the course, just staying the course, continuing to lock in. May not look like that behind the scenes. May not come down to an idea. Just keep sowing the seeds. Watering the bamboo, if you will. And you get guys on the comeback because you don't fold your arms and blow your breath and pout and not try to figure it out. You just continue to be who you are.
Got to keep watering the bamboo.
And listen, that's not going to be what every kid wants.
It's not.
That's the thing that's okay to say out loud.
And I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm 100% with that.
There's some, and listen, I'm not even putting it on the kid, right? Like, there's some kids that be like, hey, yeah, my family needs the help. I'm going to take the biggest NIL deal. I'm fine with that. Or he's like, hey, I'm really close with my family, or I got a sick relative or something. I need to stay close to home. Totally understand. I don't have a problem with that. But for kids that are making decisions for other reasons, Nebraska has those reasons on lock, right? If you're looking at facilities, if you're looking – and some kids are just going to be like, hey, I want to go a place that they've shown me recently they can win a national championship. Okay.
Tell you,
it's not going to be the choice for everybody. I get that.
So,
but I like the way they're doing it.
Do you need to see anything over these next handful of days with all this commitment schedule, and you got another one on July 4th, and
yeah, you got 2 this afternoon, I think.
Do you need to see it pay dividends to not have the face shaken?
No, not 26. Honestly, I've said this for the last couple of weeks since we've been talking about it. They could literally not get a single person to come in this class. Their numbers are fine. Their position groups are fine. and whatever holes they feel like they have after the season, they'll fill in the transfer portal. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't sign any high school recruits, but I just mean from a real practical standpoint. I sit here and I go, okay, if there's enough guys, like they're taking some pretty big swings. Some of the guys they're going after they're pretty big swings, right?
Yeah, go back and look at
Odom's Final Five. Yeah. Like look at some of the places Nebraska's losing recruits to. Like they're taking big swings at guys, right? So I'm okay with that, understanding that they don't really have to fill out a class this year. Now, for all the work they've been doing on the front end, if 27 doesn't pay off in some way, I'm going to have some concerns.
Yeah, that's fair.
And especially because I expect them to have a good year this year.
That's fair.
Like if they do anything, and we may get to this either today or later in the week, but, we talked about Todd Furman's key games with Nebraska and Michigan. I kind of want to go through some of the other teams in the Big Ten because he did it for all of them. But Nebraska's at 7.5. The over is minus money, which means Vegas thinks it's going over, right? So let's say they get to 8 wins. They get to the minus money on the over and 7.5. To me, that will pay dividends in 2027, even though it's less than I think they're going to win.
I agree.
Right? 8, I think, gets them some momentum.
You get the sense, right, that 8 would be disappointing? That people feel?
I would be disappointed because I think it's a better team than that. I don't know if generally, like 8 or 9, I think is what most people, like somewhere in that range is what most people want this year.
You know what I think? I'm not asking you to lower your expectations. I don't mind conviction at all, but I think one of the reasons why I don't always fall in love or I'm enamored with schedule is because what happens if there's a team that's
there's Indiana.
What happens if there's a team that's better than you think they are?
Well, that's what happened with Indiana last year.
What if UCLA's actually good?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we've been poo-pooing that.
Yeah.
What if SC is actually good?
Yeah. What if SC figures it out?
I'll give you one that hits real close to home. Mm-hmm. What if Minnesota is good?
Yeah.
Right. You have to buoy that against what your expectation level was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Because you're sitting next to a guy that's been trying to tell you, I think Minnesota's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are. I think Minnesota's. If Nebraska lost that game, I wouldn't be shocked. They've lost 5 in a row to them. But we would be bothered.
We'd be disappointed.
Yeah. But we should be though. What I'm saying is, a lot of the expectation in terms of that dictates disappointment is what you thought going in.
Yeah, expectations.
Yeah. So that's part of it.
And I totally understand that. My issue is, especially when we're looking at history against certain teams, right, is I sit there and I go, most of the time Nebraska wasn't losing to those teams because they weren't good enough. Right? We've talked a lot about
that's not true.
I think it's true. With Minnesota, I think it's true. I don't think Nebraska's lost very many games to Minnesota because they weren't good enough. Were they not mentally strong enough? Yeah. Were they not?
You're saying Nebraska has lost games because they're not good enough.
No, I'm saying they didn't lose those games because they weren't good enough.
Okay. All right. I agree with that.
I think Nebraska was good enough to win multiple of those 5 games.
I think we talked too much about talent during some of those losses.
Yes, because I don't think that was the issue. I've never thought that was the issue.
I would agree.
Against most teams, right? You get beat by Ohio State, like sometimes talent's going to be an issue. Although, look at the Ohio State game last year. Talent really didn't seem to be an issue there. Right? So I look at that, and I weigh that against the 5-game losing streak, and I go, okay, what do I think is different? I do think the roster's better. I think it's a good roster. I really do. Mm-hmm. I like the roster. I've been very high on it, especially at position groups that other people don't necessarily love yet, or there's more question marks around. Do I think the competitive stamina and the resilience and the mental toughness is better? Yes, I do.
I know you keep saying that about the D-line, but are you willing to acknowledge that the concern is legit?
Oh, I get the concern.
Okay.
You
just don't agree.
I think it's going to work.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not poo-pooing people's concern. I get it. You lost Ty, really good football player. You lost Nash, really good football player, even though he's banged up. You lost MJ Sherman, who was sort of a hybrid role, but was really important to what they were doing. You lose Jamari Butler. You lose James Williams. Like, I get it. I like these pieces better, but they are less proven. So I don't poo-poo anybody that has questions about the defensive line. But if I sit here and I go, okay, I think the roster's better, and I think Coach Rhule has gotten the culture to a point where the other things aren't going to keep beating them, then I can sit here and say, like, yes, I get that they lost 5 in a row to Minnesota. And I get Minnesota has done a lot of the other things right longer than Nebraska has. But this is where I think it turns.
Special teams, clock management.
I mean, listen, what did we say about
a better offense?
Yeah.
Getting off the field on third down.
I mean, what have we said about clock management? Everybody's a lot better clock manager when your offense and your players are better.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
You know, like Andy Reid couldn't manage the clock until Patrick Mahomes showed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and the history of Mike Eckler is just as strong for special teams as the history of Nebraska is just as bad against special teams, right? So I'm going to weigh those two things. I say, hey, if we can get average, I'm good. If we can get average special teams, I'm good.
And you know what lends itself to better in-game clock management?
What's that?
Confidence in knowing who your players are.
And confidence in
situationally. Yeah. Like if you have a good handle on what to expect, you can manage the clock a lot easier. It's not even so much situationally or like this general rule of thumb, because you'll see Andy Reid do different things with Patrick Mahomes because it's Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. It bucks conventional wisdom. Yeah. Mike Vrabel, right? Notoriously supposed to be poor with in-game clock management, right? And I listened to a couple of his podcasts where he kind of explains, you know, what the book says versus who you're actually coaching. Yeah. And it's a fascinating point.
I mean, that dude had Malik Willis starting games at quarterback at one point.
It's just a fascinating when to go for two and when not to. And, you know, understanding who you are defensively versus what the book says. And I think.
How much does clock management have to do with the fact, like, hey, I don't know if I can get a snap back to any of my specialists?
Well,
it
all matters.
Right, like that matters in clock management, right?
It all matters.
Also, can we like sit here and understand it wasn't Andy Reid's brilliant clock management that allowed Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce to get into field goal position in 11 seconds?
Yeah.
Like that, was that brilliant clock management by Andy Reid, or was it just Mahomes doing Mahomes stuff?
Yeah. What if Texas doesn't get the fourth down on St. Louis? That looks
a lot better.
Looks pretty horrible for Macvic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks a lot different for you guys, right?
They got it though.
Like
and then some.
Is Mac Brown a great clock management specialist because the officials put 1 second back on the clock? Yeah. Because otherwise, if it goes the other way and they leave it at triple zeros, oh my God.
100%.
Colt McCoy can't manage a game. Mac Brown can't manage a game, but all of a sudden it's fine. Like, let me tell you, the better your quarterback is, better your players are, a lot easier to manage clock. We're going to talk to Sam McKewon from the Omaha World Herald coming up next.
Jake Brown, congratulations on the national championship. In 2023, you came here as a fan and watched your LSU Tigers win it all. To be a part of it, how are you soaking in this moment?
I mean, it's surreal. I don't think it's going to set in for a while. I just know that I'm super proud of all the guys around me, super proud of the coaching staff. I mean, super proud of our fans for showing up and giving us a home field advantage here today. Like I said, I just don't think it's set in yet. I don't think it will for a while, but we're going to enjoy the moment for as long as we can.
Yeah, you're a Louisiana native. You grew up going to games. Those guys were your superheroes. Now you get to be that superhero. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means the world. I mean, this is the big leagues of college baseball at LSU, so I mean, you know that there's going to be people looking up to you when you're playing here, and that's a lot of the reason of why we play the way that we play. I mean, our team's super tough. We leave it all out there, and there was never a doubt that we were going to get this done here.
Yeah, what is it about the swagger of LSU and this program that just continues to have excellence year after year?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just baseball, it's LSU sports as a whole. I mean, if you want to win a national championship in your sport and you want to be developed and you want to be the highest level that you can be, this is where you come, and that showed here again today.
Aspirations can drive us. Sometimes a simple gesture is what fuels the pursuit of a dream. When it's time to make your dream a reality, we are here to help. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Howard here with Michael Braswell. Michael, you're a national champion. How long have you envisioned this moment?
I mean, since I was about 6, 7 years old. I mean, I've always grew up watching ESPN, watching the College World Series, and, doing it with this team and this program. I mean, I couldn't have dreamt it up any better.
You didn't start here, but you came here to win a title. What is it about this program that makes winning a title possible?
I mean, start off with the fan base. Best fan base in college baseball, easily, not even a question. Coaching staff, I mean, the best of the best. I mean, the results speak for themselves, and, just they have great people here, just in the city, on the team, and just everywhere. And, I wouldn't rather be anywhere else, and Baton Rouge will always be my home forever.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live. Here is the sports editor for the Omaha World Herald, Sam McKewon.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Sam McKewon.
We're gonna throw the ball, and you just stand back there and throw it where you want to go. That kind of thing.
Sam McKewon.
Are you guys going? Sure.
Now, Sam McKewon.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla, presented by Centrist Federal Credit Union. We are joined now by our friend Sam McKewon from the Omaha World Herald. Sam, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
Hanging in there, Sam. Are you staying relatively cool?
Well, once the cold front comes through, I think we'll all feel pretty
Isn't
good.
it weird what we consider a cold front?
Down to 89.
Hey, I'll take it. I will take it.
It's crazy.
I'm glad. I'll tell you what. I'm glad that the series ended yesterday, because probably weren't getting in the game tonight. If it had gone to Game 3, we'd be talking about Tuesday morning. We'd be talking about ending it Tuesday morning, just like the last time.
Is it supposed to storm that bad? I'm embarrassed to say I haven't been paying good enough attention.
I think I don't know if it's going to be bad, but it's frequent enough at that. Like, what happens is every time there's a lightning strike within a certain radius, it resets for 30 minutes. And I think they would have just been standing at the park a lot of the night. So, and they might have been able to move up the start time, but ESPN's got what it wants to do, and so on and so forth. So I felt like it ended yesterday I picked Coastal actually to win the series, but LSU won it, and they were the best team, and they got it done. And of course, they're pitching over the course of the entire series, but over the championship series was incredible. And I thought Tom underlined it well in his column that for many years LSU had won a certain way, and they won this series completely the opposite way.
Yeah, didn't have to rake. It wasn't about the offense. It's not Dylan Cruz. I mean,
right.
Kate Anderson and Shores, and I mean those guys. Fudge, could they
felt a little like classic UCLA? A lot of pitching.
Yeah.
How about 130 pitches on a 100-degree day? Like no problem.
No problem. I think the heat probably helps more than it hurts when it comes to stuff like that. And it was his final start until wherever he's assigned. And I'm guessing he won't throw again for a while. Probably it'll be a month. I don't know. It could be a long time before he throws again. But I'm sure he would say it's worth it. He won a national championship. It's his national championship. He's the primary reason they won it. I'm sure he feels good about having done that. But you do think about wear and tear. When you're watching the NBA Finals last night, I mean, what happened to Tyrese Haliburton was horrible. I don't know that we would have said, now that just came completely out of the blue. I mean, he put himself at a slight risk of that happening by continuing to play on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we unfortunately didn't want to see that happen. That's the kind of thing that can happen sometimes. And you feel horrible for Haliburton because it's going to be a year before he gets back. So, there's always a risk there when a guy goes to 130 pitches, but I think they felt good about the risk. And again, I think it was worth it. And for what it's worth, it was worth it for Haliburton too.
Mm-hmm.
If he had gotten through the finals and they had won the finals, that would have been the biggest thing in his life. So, I think he would say he would do it all over again.
I think 100% of athletes at that stage would play. I don't think there's a person that wouldn't, to be honest.
Right. And Willis Reed set the standard, 53 years ago? And I don't think Willis Reed could hurt himself anymore. Like, he was about as good as, he wasn't going to tear it anymore, but he sort of set the standard for how that thing is done. And I'm glad that he did. Like, that's one of the, 20 or 30 greatest moments in NBA history, what Willis Reed coming out for Game 7. So, like, once he did that, it kind of set the tone for every NBA player that came after him, that you're going to play through it. And I just feel terrible that the guy,
unless you have a migraine, and that guy has never been able to live it down. I'm just right. Like, you don't want to be that guy.
I'm a Scotty guy, and I still think about it.
Right?
Like, yeah.
Yes.
Sam, let me ask you something, and this is on the heels of, you're going to know because I've been passionate about Nebraska's methodology and paying dividends and finding guys and diamonds in the rough. You've heard me talk about this forever, right? But when you get a guy just yesterday, and Corey Broomfield, who, for those that don't know, he's down at First Academy. He clearly has a hand in training and with Danny Odom, and Danny he commits today or makes his announcement today at whatever time, 5 or 4:30. 5, I think he's 5. And just yesterday, Coach Broom says, so happy for this guy. Had nothing and took everything in 12 months. We'll be watching ESPN tomorrow. And I can't help, maybe this is selfish, Sam. I don't know. Maybe this is my skirt and pom-poms for Nebraska. But when I read things like that, I can't help but to further feel like this is like some hokey, cheesy moment. But, man, I respect the heck out of Nebraska because part of that had nothing and took everything in 12 months was Nebraska going first and investing in Odom, when basically what Coach Broomfield said, wasn't a lot happening with that recruiting 12 months ago. And now, 12 months later, he's down in Nebraska, Clemson. He's got Penn State, OU, and I'm missing one. Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Right? Like, Nebraska needs to win the recruiting battle, but I'm not mad. I wouldn't be mad regardless, based on how this thing has played out in the last month, because that's been who Nebraska is. Now, I get it. At some point, man, you got to say I do at the aisle.
Got to land them. Yeah.
You gotta get them. But isn't this just who Nebraska has been?
Yeah. So if you have a good process, then the outcomes should eventually pay off. That's usually what you're doing. Is you're kind of putting the hay in the barn, so to speak. And you live with the decision, kind of like, you live with the last shot if you know that everything you did up to the last shot of the game was everything you could do.
Yeah.
And then the shot either goes in or it doesn't. And that's kind of how individual decisions are made.
Difference between pain and regret, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Regret is not doing everything you could.
Right. Did you do everything? And I think Nebraska feels like in almost every circumstance in recruiting, they've done just about everything they can do. And we'll see, we'll see how it goes. I think they're probably going to get Odom, and then there's a running back announcing
Rhule.
today, and Jamal Rhule, and I think they'll probably get him too. And that's the start of, I think, maybe a mini run. I don't know how many commits it'll include. It might be
You could get
three,
as many as 3 this week.
Right. It could be, over the course of the next couple of weeks, it could be 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Darian Jones will announce on the 4th of July, which is 13 days, 12 days away. And then there could be a couple more in there. So, yeah, I think Nebraska's process is good. I continue to watch. I think they're going to be good at skill recruiting. I think, broadly speaking, Nebraska's been pretty good at skill recruiting, or at least at getting the guys here. I think Nebraska's doing a better job of getting the fit right than they used to. Still watching the big linemen. I think the line recruiting is just, to some degree, it's not even skill, it's art, it's a little bit of luck. Now the portal makes it easier to go get a guy. Like you can resolve your problems with Elijah Pritchett and Rocco Spindler.
That certainly wasn't easy though.
No, it wasn't. But like you can. Let's put it this way: when you go compete for Elijah Pritchett, the one school you don't have to compete with is the school he's transferring from. And so that's one of the advantages. And a lot of times guys, when they transfer out, especially if they transfer out of the SEC, because of the SEC's rules, they don't go to the SEC. And so you're crossing off 15 other schools. And so there's an advantage in the portal, is my point. But in high school recruiting, figuring out, like I thought, obviously they did a terrific job with these 2 linemen over the weekend, Cooper and how do you say his name?
Puma. Yeah.
I mean, they did everything they could. Now the question comes down, okay, are these guys, do the big guys want to, they're a little, I've always found they're, in just covering recruiting, they're a little harder to pinpoint, like to know exactly what those guys want all the time, unless they're from, 150 miles away. Then you kind of know. But Nebraska's trying to nationally recruit that position. I don't blame them. I think that's a good move. We'll just see how it goes. Like it's always been tricky. That's a position those positions have never been easy. You could argue one of the great recruiting coups of all time for Nebraska football was Neil Smith out of New Orleans. How do they get him? That's just incredible recruiting. And you could argue that Neil Smith
they stumbled into the eval too.
I'm sure they did. I don't know the whole story.
Yeah, they weren't exactly looking at Neil Smith when they're watching that VHS.
Okay.
Neil Smith made himself seen.
I'm sure he did.
Who's this guy?
Right. But if you want to associate the greatest years of Nebraska football, you know what you do? You look at whoever was playing defensive tackle or nose tackle, and here are the names that you come up with. And I think the 80s were a great time for Nebraska football too. You come up with Rich Glover, Danny Noonan, Neil Smith, Ndamukong Suh, Jason Peter, Christian Peter, and whoever else you want to name from the 90s. We're not even talking about the edge guys. We're just talking about those guys in the middle. Only one of those guys came from inside the state. And the others came from all over the country, Portland, New Orleans, New Jersey. So like you've got that when Nebraska's really good, they have these great linemen. And so I'll be curious to see how that goes on both sides of the ball. But I think Nebraska's done a great job of recruiting under Rhule. They have a vision, they have a plan, they know how to communicate with the kids. It's just a competitive landscape, especially for linemen who are gold in college football. So, we'll see how they do.
Yeah, no disrespect to Ron Colley Pride's finest and Jim Scow either, who was from right down.
He was great.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, he was incredible from right down the street. So I threw that in because we were just going through the litany of and I had to throw in at least one more local guy.
No, it's great.
Let's give our guy Jared Crick a little love too.
I mean, Scow was sensational. He was
very good.
He really was. Sam, so have you had a chance to watch Jamal Rhule? Because I feel like running back is, I can't remember who said this, probably 6-7 months ago. Our stream would know. Who was it, Ravi, that we were talking to? Sam, it may have been you. When I said, what's with the hand wringing and consternation? And it was explained to me. And this, he's telling the running back, so this is funny, who went there because of the history, which is also funny. But he goes, listen, Nebraska is like running back you for all intents and purposes. Like the standard at running back at Nebraska is going to be tough. I think that's part of it. Was it Schaefer?
Schaefer.
Okay. And I was like, oh, shoot. I guess that makes sense, right? Every running back that comes here is compared to yesteryear. And that might be the only position in which we do that. Right?
I think we do it at offensive line in general.
See, I don't. I think we think the pipeline was such. We do compare it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we think it's if it's attainable again.
Maybe
at running back, we think it's attainable.
That's fair,
right? Is that any remotely accurate, Sam?
Yeah.
On why we're so tough
at blocking tight ends.
Well, not you can't. You're not always going to have a Jamie Williams or a William Washington. I mean, come on.
No, but that's what.
Not everybody can be Tom Banderas.
No, I think running back is the one position that if you're a Husker fan of a certain age, I think if you're like a 25-year-old Husker fan, you don't do that. But if you're my age, and I'm 47, yeah, you do. So like what I grew up on, like my first memories of Nebraska football were Mike Rozier, and I was 6. And so like Mike Rozier and Jeff Smith and Doug DeBose, you just go down the line. Keith Jones, like those are the guys when you went out in the yard. I'm not trying to knock any of the quarterbacks. You were always the running back that got the pitch. You weren't the quarterback making the pitch, or at least I was.
Yeah.
And so you were always like one of my favorites.
I'm just telling you, Sam. My man Mike Huffman, he was Remington, and I was Turner Gill. I'm just.
That's
I mean,
good.
it's my man could snap a football.
Right. So like that's just what you did. Is you were the option was such a captivating play that. You were always watching the guy that got the ball. And so, I think it's a high standard of running back at Nebraska. And so people are judged at this point. If you're a 30-year-old fan, you judge every back against Amir Abdullah and Rex Burkhead. If you're my age, you judge them against all of them. That go back to the 80s. You know what I don't understand about the Amir and Rex thing? And even Roy Halou, for that matter, who's grossly underappreciated. Mm-hmm. We didn't even like Amir when he was being recruited. We were the only school that was going to let him play running back, and he was an add-in at the end of the recruiting cycle, and he was met with consternation like we do every other running back. Yet we haven't learned from history that those guys. If Amir Abdullah is the gold standard, then you should be opening yourself up to thinking anything's possible in the level of recruitment with developing a running back. He should. He wasn't this prolific 4 or 5 star where we watched the film and we're like, damn, this dude is pretty saucy.
He was the 3rd guy in that class behind Braylon Hurd and Aaron Green.
Yeah. And I watched those practices. Mm-hmm. I saw Rex and Green and Hurd and Amir, and I was like, do you know why Amir played? Because he practiced like flipping Rex. And I looked at Hurd, and I left a practice one day after talking to Coach Brown, and I'm like, he was intimating, hey man, you want to talk to these young guys? And I was like, oh yeah, I can kind of see it right away, where it was about work ethic and commitment and wanting to be first in line and being the first through the drills. And I'm looking at Green and Hurd, and I'm like, man, these guys aren't playing because they're more physically gifted than you. They're ahead of you because they want to be. Right? Like, yeah, I'm dead serious. Like, they were ahead of those guys. They got outworked, and they were always available. When you're at 8 all the time and not a 2 and then a 10, those are the guys that – it's why Amir's still in the league. He refuses to go away. Like, he's just not. It's
right.
the same. They just refuse. You can get rid of me, but it ain't gonna be because of me. You're just gonna have to not like me. Like, I mean, that's basically he's overcome the fun. Like, anything can happen.
It can. And, like that's why one of the reasons why I like the running back position so much is it incorporates some of what you're talking about to such a degree that, of course, it's about athleticism and speed and size and all those things. But there's an intangible quality at running back that just means a little bit more than maybe it does at receiver. And I'm not trying to say that receivers don't have those things too, but you can be a great, great receiver and not necessarily, and just be able to run by people. And, like I would argue that the Cleveland Browns have one of the 5 most talented receivers in the NFL, and Jerry Jeudy. In fact, I'm quite confident of that. And he finally kind of played up to his potential, but for 5 years he did. Like, he just didn't even. And you watch that guy run, and you're like, you are like a Ferrari. You have no problem running any route and shifting to any speed. And you're in the league because of that. It's not because you're an elite. You're not Jerry Rice as a work ethic. So like, but if you're an NFL running back, you really can't do that.
And
like
there's all sorts of different styles too, right? Like LaDainian doesn't run like Jim Brown. Jim Brown didn't run like Barry. Barry didn't run like Walter. Bo didn't run like Gale Sayers. Dickerson doesn't run like Falk. Like they're just so many different ways to skin the cat at running back.
Correct. And so, I think Nebraska's in an okay spot. I think I have watched Rhule. He plays in an offense where he's kind of in a one-back pistol, and a pistol is kind of like an I formation without the fullback. Mm-hmm. They run a lot of outside zone. He's really good at it. And then they run some inside zone, and he's pretty good at that. And he's a big guy.
He's got good size.
Tall. Oh, yeah. So he's 6 foot, about 205 pounds, and he looks it. So that's a pretty sizable back. He'll probably gain a few pounds in the NFL, in college. But I think he's got a chance to be pretty good. I think he's in a room that's really interesting. If he commits, and I think he will, he joins a room that's really interesting. Like Emmett is just a junior, and so he is not going to be a senior. He'll be back next year if he wants to come back. And then you've got Quentin Ives, who's a very different back than Emmett Johnson. And then you've got Mekhi Nelson, who's different than both of them. And then you have Jamarian Parker, and then you have all the walk-ons. Connor Booth's not a walk-on, but you have Connor Booth. And so, like, it'll be really intriguing to watch. That room developed, especially this year. They need a number 2 guy, and I'll be curious to see if that is Ives or if it is Nelson, or I don't know. Parker's been banged up, so I don't know if he'll be the guy. So Ives or Nelson, I'll be curious to see what they do.
I wonder. Emmett's been such a good ambassador in terms of his work ethic, and they're clearly helping him with his branding. Mm-hmm. Just like he's just been a solid ambassador for the program. I wonder if Nebraska would be okay if he had a good year where they're like, hey man, go get yours.
Go to the NFL?
No, like whatever.
Yeah, whatever that looks like.
Whatever he wants to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
You go to a different program?
Yeah, I don't know why I just thought that, but I'm just like,
I don't think so.
No, I'm saying not that they are encouraging it, but he's been so good to them and for them that it would be like
if somebody came up with a number they didn't want to match.
Yeah, they'd say, hey man, go get yours.
Basically.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. That's possible. I think once you have a back,
it'd be nice to have that kind of year.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good problem to have at the end of the year, right?
I think if you're a back as versatile as Emmett is, you want to keep that guy because he can kind of do all 3 things. Now that he's developed as a pass blocker, he's always been a pretty good receiver, and so I think you want to keep that guy in the fold. Again, I'm intrigued to see what Mekhi Nelson can do, because I guess I'm intrigued by Quentin Ives too. I don't know if Ives is going to be a pass catcher and if he's going to be that guy. I do think Nelson can do all the things. I do want to see it. And then, I've heard good things about Jamarian Parker, but and I've seen good things on tape, but you don't know until he does it. So I'll be really intrigued to see how things go this year at that position beyond Emmett.
If we're talking intrigue, and I'm just keeping it a buck, I'm probably the most intrigued by Mekhi Nelson. I think I know what Ives is. And Mekhi, I think I do, and I want to see more. Right? So that's the difference between those two. EJ, the evolution in terms of how he could be used in this offense could be fun because I think you'll see multiple running backs out in matchups. Nebraska could break the huddle with, for instance, you could go, you could break the huddle with Lindemeyer, Barney, Hunter, Emmett Johnson, and Dane Key, and Emmett Johnson could be in the slot, and you could motion, or Bonner or somebody could be in the backfield. If it's not Lindemeyer, you could motion them. Just the matchups you can get, right? Because what defenses will say, hey, I have final number 3, or you have first number 2, or, we're in quarters, where you can totally, with the versatility within those guys, you can manipulate the matchup. I could see a ton of backs out in space in the passing game, and it would be hard to handle, right? Because I could get you on a linebacker if I wanted.
Yeah. I think that's something that I'm sure they're gonna.
And that's one of the things Holgerson's really good at,
right?
Like historically, that he's been really good at.
Yeah. Yes. Getting smaller is the wrong word, but
getting faster guys on bigger guys.
Yeah, or just some running backs are 5'10", and you don't necessarily have a ton of slot receivers that are 5'10", some, but not that many. And sometimes what you want to do is you want to isolate the 5'10" guy on whatever they think is a good idea to cover that 5'10" guy with, usually a linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what Mekhi Nelson's height is. Say it's 5'11". I don't really think there's a lot of Big Ten linebackers that can cover him. Now, people don't know that.
No.
But
No.
I don't think there are.
No.
So stuff like that.
Dude
is
shifty.
They're going to go play. Yeah, they're going to play Michigan. And I have no idea if Ernest Hausman. And again, Ernest Hausman is one of the 5 best linebackers in the Big Ten.
Dude, how about him making the regional cover of Athlons?
Great. He deserves it. But I don't know if he can cover, you wouldn't put him on Ja'Cory Barney. And I don't know if Hausman can cover McKinnon. I have no idea. You're going to have to, there's things that they'll have to figure out and decide on their own and testing games. And, is Isaiah Mosey, can he kind of function as a running back at times? Can you take him into the slot
listen, absolutely.
Run? Yeah.
That's exactly what I would do. That is I would
just motion him into.
Listen.
Yeah.
I would play Mosey at running back.
He's pretty thick.
He's really thick.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. But again.
Yeah. I think they're probably gonna use him in that sequence a little bit. If, for example, I'm sure one of the conversations they have is, hey, we know in Ja'Cory Barney we got a really special sort of electric receiver. Do we really need him to run the jet sweep, or do we want to give Isaiah Mosey, who weighs 20 more pounds, those runs?
And he's really good with
Bonner.
He's really good with the ball in his hands. He's not really a natural receiver.
Mm-hmm. There's a little Debo in there.
Yeah,
there's a little Debo in there.
Yeah,
yeah. Bonner may not be quite fast enough.
I just have a man crush, so I don't care what Bonner does.
I love Bonner.
I just think he's a good. He's a good player too. He just comes across as a good teammate too.
Right. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but there's 2 kind of sweeps you can run. Well, more than that.
You can run kind of like a power jet sweep a little bit if he's kind of hammering off that tackle a little harder.
Right, and that you're that's on 3rd and 2, and you're hoping to gain 3 or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do that. What I like this sweep as is the way Mike Riley used to use it, which is you want to use it as a play that's going to get you 15.
Sure.
And the way he'd use it with Brandon Riley and Alonzo Moore, and those 2 guys were fast. And then sometimes he'd come back with a smaller guy, and it was more of a motion sweep. where they would come around the play, as opposed to a fly sweep is what he used to call it, where what you're trying to do is basically get the guy around the entire defense really quickly.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of guys. If you're going to be a sweep guy and not have elite level speed, the one thing you've got to be able to do is put your foot in the dirt. Because sometimes it's mostly about finding the first available vertical crease, which is hard to do when you're running laterally. So you have to have a guy that has good feel, that has the courage enough to do that. Because that's really what it is. I mean, I'm watching Wisconsin, and I'm watching Wisconsin run sweeps, and very little of it was predicated on just sheer speed. Now they would formation out leverage Nebraska, but a lot of those guys
and then they look way faster than you.
Yeah, because they become a foot race because they're running you off with motion, which was I'm not even going to get into how they were doing it, but it wasn't good. Right.
That's a play that Wisconsin's basically gotten rid of in their new, when their new coach got in there. I don't understand what they're doing.
But sometimes you'd see that thing hit inside of a tight end, right? Because
you basically split the tackle on a tight end.
Yeah, it's like, so, I mean, that's kind of the key for those kinds of things. I don't know why we just went down.
Right. So there's all these different things that I think Nebraska can do. Then it becomes okay. What is if you're a Nebraska coordinator, if you're a Holgerson, what are we going to do? And then, how do you get the offense to do all the things you want it to do? And then when it's 3rd and 7, Rhule said this on ESPN last week, and it was a good comment. He's like, teams that go to the CFP win 3rd down.
Yep.
And what he meant by that was, on 3rd down, you have to stop the opposing offense on 3rd and 7, and on 3rd and 7, you have to have answers. And I think they would say that down has not been a down that they've won consistently enough in their time at Nebraska. And honestly, I don't know that a lot of it's been coaching.
Listen, it's the 32-40. It's the 32-46 rule, where you want to get folks off the field less than 30 or 32% of the time. You don't want them to have a 32% or less conversion rate, and you want to be in the high 40s as an offense. I mean, that's what it is. You get to those two numbers. And you're cooking. You are absolutely cooking.
That's right. And he also mentioned, what they've done the first 2 years, and he was referencing Tony White, is they would just get in man coverage and try to lock everybody down. And of course, man coverage, there's safeties behind that. But he also said, hey, we got to do some different things defensively. We can't just do that. We have to do more. And then on offense, I don't know that they were calling the wrong plays. I think their quarterback needs to run a little bit more often, and I think he'll do that. And then 2, they needed better players. So, and I think they're going to have that, and I think they're going to have a little bit better options at receiver. But then Holgerson's got to be able to decide, okay, do I want Mosey and Cortez Mills in on this play? How do I want to use Bonner? There's only so many snaps in a football game. There's probably 70 snaps in a game now. Who gets what snaps? How do we keep everybody happy? They'll probably be able to keep people happy through 3 games. But then you get into Big Ten play, and we saw this with Jalen Lloyd, who's an awfully talented football player. Sometimes he just kind of disappeared. They didn't put him in the game, and they probably should have, to the point where Rhule's saying it in press conferences. And, so that's the thing that you've got to make sure you're keeping track of is, are your best athletes getting in games consistently, or are you getting stuck in personnel formations where, guys like a Jalen Lloyd might only play 6 snaps in a game and he probably ought to be playing 25.
How much do you think the existing relationship between Shorts and Holgerson, you think, helps solve that?
I think it helps. Yeah. I think it helps. They'll be able to have a dialogue with one another. I mean, again, Dane Key's probably not leaving the field much, so this isn't about Key, and I don't really think it's about Hunter.
Yeah,
because it wasn't about Isaiah Nayor and it wasn't about Jamal Banks. They played. I mean, those guys played a lot.
It's about Barney and Mills and Mosey and those guys.
Yeah,
we haven't heard a lot of talk about Mosey either. I'm surprised you brought him up, Sam.
Oh, he's way up there. Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, somewhere, because we're forgetting about the more accomplished receiver that we haven't mentioned yet either, but he plays outside the numbers for the most part, so we're not sure if there's going to be room with Hunter and Key. But he came in with a pretty good young man down there from Florida.
Well, yes, Mills is So I'm sure the hope with Mills, and this is he's
said
not
Mills?
a developmental player.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mills. Are you thinking of somebody else?
Nope. I was thinking of Cortez.
Okay. So, what I would say about
Cortez
Mills,
strikes me as more the natural receiver. Mosey's more the guy that can run after the cat. Yeah.
Right. The deal with Mills, and this is just my opinion, I could be wrong. If he has 12 catches for 203 yards this year, he's done what he's supposed to do. I don't know that guy is going to have, unless somebody gets hurt, he's going to have 45 catches. He's a guy that after Key leaves can then move into, okay, now he's going to be the guy that's, that grabs 50 for 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're looking for, a player like Mills to develop into an elite, dominant outside threat that scares teams, basically. And that may take a year or two. So people's perception of what he's capable of this year, they may want to temper that a little bit, because he may not necessarily get 30 catches unless somebody gets hurt. He may get 11, and those 11 are good. They're really good plays, and that's what you're kind of looking at there. Whereas a Ja'Cory Barney, I don't know how many catches he ended up with last year, 40, something like that. He's a slot guy, and you're going to get him the ball, and he's going to try to do things. It's like an extended handoff. Mills is very important, in my opinion, to the program, because he's the guy that can go stand out, go outside and basically run the post. He's what Xavier Betts could have been, same thing there. You don't necessarily have 5 of those guys on your team unless you're LSU, but you get a couple of them and you develop them, and hopefully they become the players that you really want them to be. Do you think Dane Key is that player?
I don't know. He gets open a lot. I know that, but I mean, we'll see how where the verticality comes in the passing game, because I think one of the things that Nebraska's really putting themselves in position to do is they can scheme with personnel. Because the first thing defensive coordinators look for is who's in the game. So, you'll have key indicators. Say it's 12 in the game, it's 44 in the game. You'll have things that you'll be asking people in the booth to tell you so you can get a gauge on formation. What Nebraska's going to try to be able to do is not dictate what formation they're in based on who's in the game. So I think it's really important for Lindenmeyer to line up as an H-back and Bonner to be out in a slot, or Emmett to be out in a slot, or whomever with your outside guys, or vice versa, or however you want to do it, so you can dictate where you want the ball to go. Key's a guy that I think, I don't know how much they'll move him around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I would be totally speculating, but I do know he's really good at navigating spaces and understanding defensive concepts. So if your OC and your quarterback do, you can almost use him like a chess piece because of his football IQ. That's kind of more what I'm thinking.
Got it. Yeah, I think he's probably pretty versatile as well. Mark Whipple used Trey Palmer that way. And I don't know.
I mean, you could break the huddle with 3 tight ends and not one of them lines up as an inline guy.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Remember when Penn State did that to Nebraska when they had Jesse James and they had 3 really good ones, and they put them outside the numbers, and Bo would get in big personnel, and then they'd throw it to him outside the numbers. I was like, this is a nightmare.
Was that O'Brien?
It was.
Yeah.
That was Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a flipping nightmare.
That was
he's good at some of that
2012
stuff.
and 2013.
I was like,
I don't know what I'll be curious to see.
if Carter Nelson's healthy and he breaks the huddle, where is he going?
Yeah.
He's actually really interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
The way that we've talked about how this offense could look, that's a guy that's super interesting. Lindemeyer's a guy that's super interesting. Harburg's a guy that's super interesting.
Where's Harburg break the huddle? He could easily be a running back,
and maybe
you put Emmett out in the slot. Like, that's doable.
Talented tight end in the room might be Mac Markway, who we don't talk about because we don't know what to expect.
I mean, if EJ and Hunter, or if EJ and Harburg and Bonner break the huddle with two fast guys on the outside or inside or wherever you put them, you think Bonner can't line up outside the numbers and you put Hunter inside to work on a nickel? Like, they can do anything.
They can do a lot. It's just it's going to be really interesting to watch how they figure it out and, how they incorporate their run game into all that. Yeah, it's they are not lacking for options or potential. I think it's now you got to dial it into, okay, here's who we're going to be and here's the identity and then move all of that with tempo when you need to. So the thing that I felt like Satterfield struggled with, or whatever, struggle's the wrong word. I'm not trying to knock that.
When you don't know what your players are capable of, you're going to look like that. And I'm not making excuses for Sat. I'm just saying, like, man, the dude had his hands full.
He did. And I just felt like there were times where, like, get your quarterback some pace. Like, give Dylan what Dylan can handle, and Dylan can handle going fast. Like, some quarterbacks actually can't handle that. And one of the things that I think he has, one of the gifts I think God's given him, is the ability to process and move quickly. And, like, man, you get that. Give your quarterback the ability to go really quickly and process quickly when things are going well. And I felt like a lot of times they'd get rolling and Rhule, they'd have to slow it down because they had to bring 3 guys in and 3 out. And let's run this certain play. And I don't know. I think Dylan's better when he's able to just keep going and move quickly. And so hopefully Holgorsen gives him opportunities. Not every drive, but let's say the first drive of the second quarter and you're up 10-7 against Cincinnati. And that's possible. Turn it up and go score fast and get up 10 and then get a stop and then try to put one more on the board and then go into halftime. Like, find ways to give him an opportunity to move the ball very quickly down the field. And I think Holgorsen will have that gear for Rhule when it's appropriate.
Mm. That's our guy, Sam McKewon, Omaha World Herald. Great stuff as always, Sam. Thanks for letting us kind of keep you a little overtime here. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care. Bye.
The funny thing is,
what's that?
That's like the whole, because the criticisms of Coach Rhule will be, in-game management and clock management. Mm-hmm. He's typically conservative by nature. Coach Holgorsen may be a little aggressive, so watching them balance each other out. But the more efficient and proficient your offensive is, the smoother the thought process goes. Everybody's going to be better across the board, but let's not sit here and act like Coach Rhule doesn't know that that's one of the things that they want to really get better with is the decision and the tempo in which they play with in game. He's not dumb.
I also give him a ton of credit for identifying someone to come in that probably thinks a little differently than he does.
Yeah.
In Dana Holgorsen. But speaking of tempo, make sure your tempo when you're out on the road is just about right. Don't get distracted. Keep those eyes focused and straight ahead. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Live.
A successful financial future is built one coin at a time. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned saver, we've got the financial resources and team of experts who will be with you every step of the way. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
You are a national champion. You came to LSU for this moment. How good does it feel?
I mean, it's a dream come true. I don't really know what to say right now. I'm just extremely grateful for everyone in my life, family, friends, the coaching staff, my teammates, everyone that's been along for the ride, and I'm just super grateful.
Would the little Daniel Dickinson ever believe that you'd be on this spot right now?
Honestly, I think so. It took him a little while for people to understand, but I think he believed that he was going to be here.
I know someone that's believed in you along the way, your mom. How much has she meant to you in your baseball journey, and how proud is she right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's probably crying, honestly. She's an emotional person, but I love her so much, and without her, I wouldn't be here.
Just the legacy of this program. What does it mean to bring another title back to Baton Rouge?
Yeah, I'm super glad that I could be a part of that. Obviously, that's why I transferred here. I wanted to add another one to the fan base and to the program, and I'm super grateful.
Howard here at Derek Curiel. Derek, a year ago you pulled your name out of the MLB draft to come to LSU to win a national title. You turned dreams to reality. How would you describe this moment right now?
Yeah, this is everything I've pictured the last 11 and a half months. This is what Coach Johnson told me if I came to LSU that this would happen. A lot of hard work with these guys. This is why we came here, and I'm just so grateful for these Tiger fans. Grateful, thankful to God for allowing me to be here, and this means the world.
In your first year as college baseball, you're a national champion. How would you describe the journey from back when the season started to today?
Yeah, started day one of fall ball. Bear Jones, Luis Hernandez, Steven Milam, those leaders that have been here before really helped us freshmen and us transfers get acclimated quick and prepared us for this moment. The coaches, we've been training for this since day one, and now that it's finally here, just thankful for the ride.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, reminding you that your debit card is your top-of-wallet way to pay for everyday purchases. It needs to be fast and secure, and Centris Federal Credit Union has you covered there. When you get a checking account at Centris, you also get a free Centris Visa debit card. Learn more about Centris' debit cards and checking account options by visiting them online at centrisfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA. There was a lot in there with Sam today, a lot. I will say the one thing that, and of course, leave it, this is how my mind works. Like, I took a little bit of exception when he was talking about recruiting the skill positions versus the lines.
Because the lines have actually been recruited pretty well.
I
think his concern was for the big guy. He said big guys generally. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, man. What do you think the summation was? I'm sorry.
I think that they've recruited the lines better than we're giving them credit for.
Okay.
Currently, at least this staff. I understand there's been issues with that in the past, but I will say, so I was kind of looking back, and I understand offensive line, there's like a delayed gratification thing there, right?
Very much so.
But we are 3 years in terms of 3 recruiting classes in for Coach Rhule, right? So he just wrapped up his third class in December, February, whatever you want to call it. They've signed 14 offensive linemen in those classes. And I just wanted to go through real quick for you here. And you tell me if you like these guys or not, okay? Sam Sledge.
Yes.
Big Slam Sledge guy, right? We like Grant Bricks.
Yes.
We like Houston Kahina-Torres.
Yes.
We like Preston Taumua.
Yes.
Do we like Gibson Pyle?
Yeah.
Don't know yet.
Don't know.
Brock Knutson.
Yeah.
Tyler Knack was a transfer that came in under Rhule.
Like him.
Like him. We like Jason Machacek.
Yes.
We like Gunnar Gatula.
Yes.
More than we thought we were going to, for sure, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he ended up, I mean, if he can get his body right, like stay healthy and get his body right, like that's a guy that I was really impressed with already. Guys like incoming freshmen out. We like Sean Hammerbeck.
Oh, yeah.
We like Juju Marks.
Yep.
We like Brian Tapu.
Yep.
So I get a lot of these guys haven't played yet, right? Because we're on a little bit of a delay with offensive line because you don't want offensive linemen to play right away. But I just went through a bunch of the guys that they got, that they recruited and have developed and have started to develop. I think they've actually done a really nice job on the offensive line. And that's not even, I didn't even go through the guys they've already got committed for this year's class, like Ainsworth and Waterman. Like I think they've done, and then I haven't even brought up guys that they turned in, guys that they inherited that none of us liked, that they've turned into players that we like and appreciate. Like Ben Hart's the biggest one. We would have drove Ben Hart to the airport.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're like, oh man, we are set at tackle because we've got Ben Hart now.
No, that's legit. I think that's a good way to look at it too, because perception versus reality is pretty different. And again, he's one of only a handful, Coach Raiola, whose position group has gotten better every year.
Almost to a man. There's a couple you could point out, but maybe regressed a little here or there, but almost to, and that's a big.
Yeah, I did think Ben Scott was going to take a bigger jump.
I thought he was probably better his first year than his second year.
But
which is fine.
I'm telling you, ask Ben Scott though. Well, he told us. I don't know if it was on air or off air. He's like, the work ethic and meetings and attention to detail is vastly different than when I was at Arizona State. It took me a long time. Like we would lift together, and then I wouldn't see those guys until the next day. You ain't not doing that here.
Well, yeah. Let's throw Justin Evans in there too, because he was recruited by Raiola under the previous staff.
Yeah.
Right? So technically still a Raiola guy. We like Justin Evans, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody likes Justin Evans. So we sit here and go, okay, there's all these guys. And I know he's been banged up, but when Turner Corcoran was healthy 2 years ago, we liked what he had turned into as an offensive lineman. So
Corcoran's probably the one guy, and I hate to say it because I think he's a fantastic person. You just couldn't get the fan base to come around him.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not even going to try. It's
even
whatever.
Though he was playing better when he was healthy.
Yeah.
He was playing better. Now, I think he was also playing probably out of position more than he wanted to as well, but that's neither here nor there. My point being, this is a group that's developed really, really well, that has taken guys that we didn't care for much when they inherited, turned them into good guys, has taken guys that
Did anybody really, was anybody really in love with Gatula coming out of high school?
No.
Okay.
That's kind of my point, though, right? Even one of the guys that we didn't love. Can you remember a game last year where you were like, oh, Gatula's a problem?
Yeah, they were winning games
like
a year ahead of schedule with Gatula.
You never sat there and went,
I'm with you.
He's screwing them.
I think that's
right. So I think they've
I think it's fairly objective too. You can't really debate it.
No, the offensive line has not been the problem.
You can't really debate it.
Like the offensive line has been very good.
And it doesn't. That's not to say
they can still get better.
Yeah.
And they still want to recruit high-level players. But I'm saying if I'm a Husker fan, I'm looking, I go, okay, I trust their evals because they've done a good job. I trust their development because they've done a good job. So I'm going to assume, and listen, I know their development's been good because I keep bringing this up. They've had a lot of offensive line injuries over the last 2 years, and it hasn't mattered. We haven't blinked, right? And so I sit here and I go, okay, they've brought in 14 offensive linemen in the last 3 years. I didn't even count the class that Raiola brought in his last year under Frost. And I sit here and I go, okay, I like what they've done here, and I haven't even gotten to the defensive line, which you know how I feel about some of the guys in that room. You know how I feel about what they've done with the defensive line recruiting.
Just thinking about like some of these position battles, and what I said earlier in the first segment about, well, it's basically the first hour since that was the segment, but how much of it comes down to, well, this guy's just clearly that much better physically. This is what we need to have happen. There aren't a lot of those.
I think that's one of the things I like about the offensive line room.
There aren't a lot. I mean, at first blush, and clearly those guys know more than me, but like if I'm just kind of going through it in my head, even at running back, I'm not sure how much of it has come down to sheer talent.
Sure. Emmett's stuck with it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's a dude that's been through it, stuck with it, and is talented.
Yeah, and pretty much knows everything. But again, like what would you do if Nebraska broke the huddle with like Harbert could go in the backfield. They could run zone read with him. EJ, Lindemeyer, Barney, and like Dane Key.
Yeah. I think we could see some 49er stuff this year out of the offense in terms of just putting guys in weird spots.
You just have a lot of versatility.
It's going to put defenses in some odd positions. We're going to talk to Joe Healy of D1 Baseball coming up next to wrap up the CWS.
Jake Brown, congratulations on the national championship. In 2023, you came here as a fan and watched your LSU Tigers win it all. To be a part of it, how are you soaking in this moment?
I mean, it's surreal. I don't think it's going to set in for a while. I just know that I'm super proud of all the guys around me, super proud of the coaching staff. I mean, super proud of our fans for showing up and giving us a home field advantage here today. Like I said, I just don't think it's set in yet. I don't think it will for a while, but we're going to enjoy the moment for as long as we can.
Yeah, you're a Louisiana native. You grew up going to games. Those guys were your superheroes. Now you get to be that superhero. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means the world. I mean, this is the big leagues of college baseball at LSU, so I mean, you know that there's going to be people looking up to you when you're playing here, and that's a lot of the reason of why we play the way that we play. I mean, our team's super tough. We leave it all out there, and there was never a doubt that we were going to get this done here.
Yeah, what is it about the swagger of LSU and this program that just continues to have excellence year after year?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just baseball, it's LSU sports as a whole. I mean, if you want to win a national championship in your sport and you want to be developed and you want to be the highest level that you can be, this is where you come, and that showed here again today.
Aspirations can drive us. Sometimes a simple gesture is what fuels the pursuit of a dream. When it's time to make your dream a reality, we are here to help. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Howard here with Michael Braswell. Michael, you're a national champion. How long have you envisioned this moment?
I mean, since I was about 6, 7 years old. I mean, I've always grew up watching ESPN, watching the College World Series, and, you know, doing it with this team and this program. I mean, I couldn't have dreamt it up any better.
You didn't start here, but you came here to win a title. What is it about this program that makes winning a title possible?
I mean, start off with the fan base. You know, best fan base in college baseball, easily, not even a question. Coaching staff, I mean, the best of the best. I mean, the results speak for themselves, and, you know, just they have great people here, just in the city, on the team, and just everywhere. And, you know, I wouldn't rather be anywhere else, and Baton Rouge will always be my home forever.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
There's 25,000 people there, and I vaguely hear a warning issued. As the head coach, I was an assistant for 24 years, and as an assistant, you're almost treated like a second level citizen, and you can't say a word. Now, as a head coach, I think it is your right to get an explanation of why we got warned. And I'm 48 years old. I shouldn't get shooed by another grown man, right? So when I come out to ask what the warning is, a grown man shooed me. So at that point, I can now hear him say, it was a warning issued for arguing balls and strikes. And at that point, I said, because you missed 3.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centrus Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Joe Healy. He's a writer, podcaster, and self-proclaimed college baseball nerd for D1 Baseball. Joe, how are you this morning?
Doing pretty well. How about you, fellas?
Good. No ordinary Joe. Joe, let me ask you something. It's hard to not know what you do know, but if you don't know any history, you know, you don't really know Schnall's personality, and you're not really paying much attention to Campos in terms of his history. When you're looking at that situation on the surface, should or should not the personalities matter when you're trying to arrive at right and wrongs?
Oh, interesting question. We're getting into philosophy right away. How about that? Yeah, I think so. Yes, in this case, because if you want to give the most kind interpretation of what happened yesterday, you had an umpire who understood. I've got a head coach on one side who is an intense guy, and we're not going to let this thing get away from us. And if I'm hearing it from him like that in the first inning, that I need to get this under control. So I can see that. But that's not me saying I agree with that thought process, but I'm saying I think I understand it from that standpoint. So I guess my answer is yes, but I hadn't really thought about it that way. So I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, but I can understand where Angel Campos kind of thought, hey, I need to get this under control. Now, I think he totally mishandled it, but I can see
so that
okay.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Because I think having, because I agree with it. I almost agree with all of that. But I also think if I'm Campos, I'm like, it didn't have to. You wanted the respect from one way, but you didn't treat your own position with the same amount of like reverence that people have for it. You know what I mean? It's almost like, well, you want your coach to act a certain way, but
he was
as
mad
an
he
umpire,
was disrespected by Schnall, but then was not giving Schnall any respect to try and de-escalate.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
this is a larger problem too in college baseball, just generally, is that
that was my follow-up, because I'm glad you're already going there, but go ahead.
Yeah, like this is a larger problem in college baseball where there's just not a lot of respect and trust going back and forth between the two parties, and I think, frankly, you know, it needs to be something that we as college baseball community take a longer look at moving forward, because this was an extreme case in part because of the stage we were on, but this is not an isolated incident in college baseball in terms of this kind of thing happening where a guy gets ejected and we're all kind of like, what on earth just happened here? And look, it's handled poorly in this case, and I hate whenever we see these quick triggers in big games. But then on the other hand, it's like these umpires are look, I'm just giving them a little bit of grace. They're trying to do the best they can, right? So like clearly there's a disconnect. Clearly something is wrong here with the way this is being handled. Like, let's get to the bottom of this and let's figure out how to move forward, because like we just cannot. Like, think about if this happened. Like, what if what if Jay Wright of Villanova had been ejected 4 minutes into a Final Four game, right? Like that would be the most absurd thing that's ever happened, and it would be one of the biggest scandals in college basketball history.
Yeah.
But in baseball,
we thought, well, that's weird, but we don't really bat an eyelash at it because like we kind of have these things happen in college baseball.
I love the fact that you got into that aspect of it because I love baseball. And kind of the purist in me, I was having these meltdowns, full disclosure, Joe, of the last, month probably, ever since the Women's College World Series and the regionals, because it's not so much about gender equality in terms of what's allowed and what isn't. I won't get that political, but I said, what is it about softball where you can chant, you can fist bump, you can pirouette, you can have these intricate 2 down, 1 down, that's 3 outs. And we don't really bat an eye at it, right? It's just in part in the game. But like if you look at a guy too long in baseball, or frame something a second and a half too long, or like we're all of a sudden getting ejections. There were so many guys kicked out over the last handful of years in college baseball. I'm like, what is going on? It wasn't so much that I'm upset at softball. I'm thinking to myself, why can't we police ourselves better in baseball without the knee-jerk, you're booted reactions? And it was explained to me over the last month of me crying about it is we just don't trust our testosterone levels. Can we sit down at the table, though, Joe, and your opinion and talk through what's allowed and what's over the top to get a semblance of uniformity?
I'd like to think so, right? And I think there's options here. I mean, one of them that I've talked about, and maybe this is overly simplistic, but like let's rewind back to the first inning yesterday, and look, Kevin Schnall didn't like the zone, and oh, by the way, like I've seen the umpire scorecard for Angel Campos, and it wasn't great.
No, it was a bad zone. Like, to be fair, it was a bad zone.
Yeah, it was tough.
So like let's establish that. But like who cares if he's complaining about your strike zone? Like, it's one thing if he's like running out on the field and standing on home plate and making it to where we can't continue the game. Like, okay, maybe that's a little different. But him just chirping you from the dugout, like, why do we have to address that? Yeah. Like, let him be mad. Like, basketball coaches complain to referees about every foul.
Incessantly.
Right? Like, and it's not, and ejections happen in basketball, but not that often.
And usually not for that either, right?
Yeah. Right, exactly, 100%. Yeah, it's usually something that escalates from there. So why can't we just have the same thing in baseball? Like, let him be mad. That's just part of the game. You're going to miss calls. He's going to think you missed calls that you actually got right, like all that stuff. I don't know why we necessarily need to get that under wraps. I've actually long understood why, there's this like invisible red line about you can't argue balls and strikes. Well, why not? Who cares? Like, it's not like you can go fix it, but anyway, that's just I think that's a simple fix. Like, I just don't understand why we don't have that same understanding the way we do in other sports, because it's not as if coaches in other sports are just saints about letting referees and umpires be wrong. Like, there's a lot of complaining, but in other sports, they don't have ejections the way they do in baseball. And I'm not sure why we have to be different that way.
Joe, you brought up basketball a couple times here. And as a former college basketball coach, like I very much appreciate the analogy because, I agree with DB that there's different sports that the culture kind of allows for different things. But I don't like, if we were afraid of guys just fighting each other, then why do we, like in men's basketball, like I've seen coaches just wear refs out, right? And so have you, not just in basketball, but in football too. We had one here. His name was Bo Pelini. He got after it pretty good, right? We've seen Nick Saban do it. Like, we've seen you just wear guys out in football. And the
have you not seen Sarkisian?
Yeah, the ref doesn't even turn. Like, he doesn't even turn his head, right? We see it in basketball where there's jog right up and back down the court, and you hear. I mean, I've sat behind some of these benches, and you hear every colorful word under the sun, and the ref just keeps running back up and down the court. Like, is it too much to ask in baseball just to say, like, hey, you have to give the coach every opportunity to not be ejected until they clearly do something that is either so egregious and offensive that they have to be removed, or that it's actively interfering with the game. Like, I mean, shoot, Shaka Smart plays defense half the time. Like, he's on the court.
Schnall wouldn't have been coaching today. Like, that seems a little excessive.
Like, what? Like, is there Like, is it just baseball umpires take themselves way too seriously? Because that's kind of where I'm landing, and I don't know if that's right.
Well, I think there's something to that culturally. I mean, I do think just the culture and the history of baseball has put umpires in a place where, let's face it, like the whole like give and take between an umpire and in the major leagues, we call them managers, between umpires and managers is like a thing, right? Like we kind of laugh and applaud at Bobby Cox of the Braves because he got ejected the most times in history. And it's almost like that's a fun little quirk of the system, right? But the difference is in Major League Baseball, like to your point, like it's not happening in the World Series. It doesn't mean he's suspended for like the next game automatically. There's like a system of checks and balances, and you know the committee will look at it and decide what is deserved, all that kind of stuff. But I think we can kind of take a fresh look at this and say like, look, there just needs to be some grace for coaches and what they say. Because here's the other thing is like, you mentioned like the Bo Pelini example, and that's a great one where the football coach is literally standing 6 inches behind the referee and complaining in his ear, and the referee doesn't react. It's just he lets it go. In baseball, how far from the home plate to the dugout entrance is 150 feet, something like that. I mean, so there's a physical barrier there. So the umpire probably sometimes, especially here where there's 25,000 people in the stands, probably can't even hear him a lot of the time. And so I'm not sure unless he is stopping you from continuing to play the game. Like if he is a nuisance on the field, if he's doing the Shaka Smart and he's walking out there and standing between the mound and home plate, okay, let's deal with that when we get there. But otherwise, like I'm not sure why the umpire needs to insert himself into that situation there if the game is not being stopped.
We're talking with Joe Healy from D1 Baseball. And Joe, I promise we will actually talk about some baseball now, not just the philosophy.
It's your fault for giving good answers, Joe. I'm just saying. I mean,
not just the philosophy behind whether or not a guy should get run.
It is good for the growth of the game, though, because I am concerned.
It is. It's honestly, it's something that drives me crazy because as having coached in basketball, but I do really love baseball. It's hard for me to watch because I'm like, this isn't like I think the umps feel like they're too much part of the game a little bit, which is kind of why I asked the question the way I did. But I do want to get to the actual baseball of it all. And I asked DB this question earlier, and I'm curious what your answer is, because we both think that college baseball's postseason is one of the most difficult to navigate and to end up being the champion. Do you think from the outset that LSU was the best team versus did they just play the best over the course of the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. I think they just played the best. I thought I thought Arkansas was more talented. And there might have been another SEC roster. I'd have to take a fresh look at it that was more talented than LSU. But a couple of things I think were key for LSU is one is that it felt like this season in general was also one where there never at any point during the season was just a team that we thought of, hey, this is the odds-on favorite to win the national title. It felt very evenly matched across, let's say, the top 8 or 10 teams in the country. Like you could have just picked them out of a hat and understood, and picked a reasonable national champion. And I think that's part of the reason why we saw so much parity in terms of getting to Omaha, right? With the team Murray State and Arizona and Louisville and a lot of teams that weren't necessarily at the front of mind going into the postseason. The other thing is that LSU's coaching staff is masterful at its roster actually getting deeper as the season goes on. So it tends to go the opposite way. Like as the games get bigger, coaches tend to trust fewer and fewer players. Well, LSU is kind of the other way where they are using the regular season and even early in the postseason to evaluate who do we have on our roster that maybe hasn't helped us to this point that much that we think can help us if we get to Omaha. And so it's a situation where, they use Cooper Williams, a left-handed pitcher who didn't pitch really at all early in the season, and he's a guy they were ready to use in Omaha. Ethan Fry was a guy who was in and out of the lineup early in the season. Here in Omaha, he's in the lineup every day, and he's batting second. Michael Braswell, the 9-hitter, their third baseman, is hitting like 180 and was overmatched at the plate in Omaha. But he plays such good defense, they were willing to make that trade, and so he was platooning early in the season, and they said, nope, we're going to stick with him because we think his defense is that much of a difference maker. And sure enough, in game one of the finals, he makes 3 outstanding plays that, any one of those gets botched and the result is different. And so LSU's coaching staff just does such a good job of maximizing its roster at the right time of year, and I think that's a big part of why they ended up lifting the trophy yesterday.
Let me ask you something, Joe. Just because we're kind of going through this, and clearly you want to be good situationally, and you want to have timely hits, and all the things that lend itself to the obvious in terms of winning baseball games. But when you're watching this LSU bunch, almost to a man, since the interviews and cameras being shoved in front of their faces from the regionals to the supers till now, they talk about their camaraderie and their chemistry. Hey, this is just LSU baseball. And it doesn't really seem to matter who is coaching the baseball team. They say this is LSU baseball. So I ask, how much of this is Jay Johnson-esque versus, you know what, this is just kind of the culture that's been created, that's been able to withstand multiple skippers?
I think it's a boring answer, but I think it's both. I think Jay Johnson's done a great job of not trying to be something different at LSU. I think he understood that, hey, I'm going to go to LSU and I'm going to mold myself a little bit to LSU versus saying, hey, let's come in here and take a totally fresh approach to everything. And I think part of it, frankly, is, the kind of the patriarch of that program, Skip Bertman, who's 87 years old and was at the game yesterday. It was fun to see.
Yeah.
Like he's still around. Jay Johnson is still talks to him all the time. I think so. I do think there's kind of just a reverence for coaches who coach there for the program and what they've accomplished. Because the other thing about it is that this is not a situation where LSU baseball has been dominant since the 1940s. I mean, they really just figured it out in the 80s. With Skip Bertman. So it's not that long ago that they really kind of started getting going. So I think that's part of it too, is that, for the most part, these folks were alive when LSU baseball got going. They saw the depths they came from to be what they are now. So I think the answer is a little bit of both. I think Jay Johnson's a master of his craft, but on the other hand, I do think it's a little bit of just understanding, hey, I'm walking into a sports car here. I just need to not run it off the road in order to have success.
Joe, I do kind of wonder every year. This is I think I added it up. This was the 29th year I'd been to College World Series games. Obviously, growing up in Omaha, I started early. But I do always kind of reflect after each series, be like, how do I feel like that was overall as a series? And I'd ask you to kind of do the same here. As an overall series, obviously you didn't have any of the if necessary games as both teams got through clean on their bracket side. How did you feel about the series as a whole, just in terms of the quality of the championship?
In terms of the quality of games, I thought it was really good, really good to great. I mean, we had very few just total stinkers.
Yeah.
There was a lot of games that were close, and we had some games that came down to the final pitches, especially early. The first day was just nothing but that. And so I look at it from the quality of game as being really good. I also think, I'm hopeful, I guess, as we move forward, that we'll look back at this as a series that reminded us that college baseball is different in that you can be a Murray State and get here. You can be a program that has struggled to get back here, like UCLA and Louisville, and get back. And after last year, when it was 4 SEC, 4 ACC, and I think myself included, we were all kind of worried about, is this just going to be what it is now? Is this just a two conference and maybe the occasional interloper? Is this what we're going to be looking at? And there was all kinds of talk about that. It was nice to have this year where it reverted back to kind of what we typically see here in Omaha. And I think it was a reminder that, look, are there advantages in the SEC and ACC, and are we just going to have to get used to that? Yes. However, because the way the postseason works, to your point, and just because of this being college baseball, and momentum is as good as your next day's starting pitcher, this is an event that I think we're going to look back, and last year's field is going to be the outlier, not this year's field. And I think that was nice. That was refreshing that we saw that and kind of were reminded of, no, this is actually how this typically works.
So I've been sorry, I'm bringing you into my own kind of thought process here. I've been thinking a lot about the way we view successful seasons for different types of sports teams. Obviously, you see the NBA Finals wraps up last night as well. And so I'm thinking about okay, how does Indiana feel this morning as opposed to OKC? And you brought up Murray State, which I've always felt like for certain teams, and LSU doesn't fall in this category for sure, But for certain teams, like getting to Omaha is the point. Like I don't think they get here and think, not consciously thinking like, hey, we don't care about winning a national championship. But like the end of the day, Murray State making the College World Series, like that's the goal. Like that's more. I don't know that. I think especially in college baseball, I don't know that people always talk about it in terms of, hey, we have to win a national championship unless you're kind of like that upper echelon of team. I think a lot of teams, it's like, hey, if we make it to Omaha, that's the year, right? Am I crazy? Like, do you see that with certain teams you're kind of covering college baseball?
Oh, 100%. And I think you can apply some context too in a situation where I think in an honest moment, Dan McDonald, Louisville, and John Savage, UCLA looked around and wondered, have I gone to Omaha for the last time with this program?
Yeah.
Because it kind of looked like those programs were kind of over.
It was 19, right, for Dan?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And so longer for Savage. They hadn't been back since they won it in 2013. And so for those programs to get back, like, yes, would they have wanted to get further? Yes. But I do think in context, those teams just getting back here probably had, what they would call really, really good seasons, great seasons that they feel like are building blocks. So I agree with you. Like, and it's one of the things I like about college baseball is that we can hold two thoughts in our head. We can hold the thought in our head that, hey, for LSU and Arkansas in particular, those two teams are here to win the national title. And we saw it with the way Arkansas lost. Like, the fact that they didn't was a crushing blow.
I'd argue Coastal too.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair with the season they had and the run they were on and
who they think they are as a baseball program.
Right. And I think that's fair. But we can also hold the thought in our head of like, there's this other grab bag of teams that for whom, like, yes, I guess if they go on a run here, they're going to take it. But also if the season ended right here, they're going to be satisfied with the way it played out. And I think that's one of the great things about college baseball.
This is interesting, Joe, because, and I'm just going back through the Rolodex. I saw Calvin Schiraldi live, right, as a kid. I've seen Plutko. I've seen Beckwith. I've seen Fido. Like, when you talk about this Kumar Rocker, I was on that call for Westwood One. When you're watching what's happening with Cade Anderson, and in a crazy world, Woods' no-hitter is overshadowed. I don't know if it was because it was Murray State. I don't know if it's because Arkansas was at home. But when you're looking at what some of these arms were able to do on the bump, and in particular, going 130 in a shutout after the stellar performance against Arkansas, how long will it take the pitching performance for you to set in relative to what else was happening at the College World Series this year?
Yes, it's a good question because I don't know that I've totally come to terms with the fact that we had arguably the most dominant pitching performance that's ever been seen at this stage with Gage Wood, and then
it's only been 50 years. I mean,
well, and not just that, but the 19 Ks, like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's ludicrous.
Yeah, throwing a no-hitter with 19 Ks is
bonkers.
Impossible just because of the pitch count piece of it, So, yeah, and then having Cade Anderson arguably overshadow that with his performance, when you consider the importance of that performance and where they were, the stage of the series, all that kind of stuff, it overshadowed. Like, I don't know that I've totally had that sink in, especially when you consider, 2 years ago we all saw the Skeens Louder game, and I thought, well, this is the best.
That's I've missed that one.
So like, and yet that's the best pitching matchup, mano a mano that I've seen here. But those two pitching performances we saw this year are probably better individual performances. And so, yeah, it'll probably be some point this offseason when I'm kind of going back stuff that it'll really hit home, like what I saw here from a pitching standpoint. But man, yeah, I mean, it was a return to pitching here at the College World Series. And like, if that's going to be the case and we're going to have low scoring games, let's at least have really dominant pitching performances to help us enjoy it.
All right, I'll get you out on this show. I have to take advantage of your expertise because he's kind of one of our very own, and he was from right down the road. And I got to ask you about O'Connor and just the move to Mississippi State. We always talk about financial commitment, and Mississippi State, baseball is their one sport where it's just incredible how they're able to function. When you're taking a look at Fid, and we obviously have a personal connection to Brian, is that probably the best hire in the off season technically for college baseball, one that intrigues you the most? Or am I just a little biased because it's Brian?
No, I think you're onto it. Like, I think it was of the offseason, it was the most inspiring hire, and I think it was the best hire that Mississippi State could have hoped to make. Bringing in a coach who has won a national title, has been to Omaha a bunch of times, and recently, not like it's ancient history. Yeah. So I think it's about as good as they could have hoped to have done, and you have everything you need to succeed at Mississippi State. But the flip side of it is that it is a fishbowl. It is a pressure cooker in a way that Virginia is not. As much success as they had at Virginia, there's not the pressure that comes with it in the way that Mississippi State does, where like you got to win immediately and you got to win consistently to have success there. I think he will, but it's a different deal. But I do think it was the best hire that Mississippi State could have made. I think we've seen with the way the players, players from Virginia have followed him there. He's held a lot of players.
Yeah, that didn't take long, did it?
No. I mean, they're going to have, I don't know, we're way ahead of it here. We haven't looked at it yet, but would it shock me if we have them in the top 10, 15 to start next year? No, because like their roster is really talented. So at least initially, it looks like all parties should be extremely satisfied with how it's played out. But that was the hard part, because that is a place that gives you everything you need to win. But the flip side of it is you better win, and you better win soon.
All right, I fibbed. One more. I had a hot take after the settlement hearing went final, and I'm looking at some of these pie charts for some athletic directors that are sharing revenue splits. And my hot take was baseball was already fairly fluid. Rosters have been moving since before it was even popular. There was no transfer portal. There was no NIL. We used to stash and store guys in junior colleges, and we moved on, right? Is college baseball, in your opinion, the most difficult sport of the majors to coach with this new financial revenue sharing period?
I think there's a great argument for it. I hadn't thought about it that way, so I wish I could give you a better answer comparatively to other sports, but I kind of just agree with the take on its face, where when you consider things like the relatively small amount of coaches managing a 35 or 40 man roster in the fall, it is a relationship deal now in college sports, where you have to re-recruit your roster every single year.
Yeah.
And if you got 4 coaches, how on earth are you able to have a close enough relationship with all 35 or 40 of those guys?
And it was already buddy. I mean, this sport was very mobile long before it was cool to be mobile.
No doubt. So yeah, I buy that, especially when you consider too, it's going to be, anybody that tells you they know exactly how it's going to play out from a financial perspective is either full of it, or they know they should not be doing sports media for a living. But baseball strikes me as a sport where that's going to be really kind of a wild card, because there are places that really want to invest in baseball. There are places that see baseball as no different than, some of the smaller sports. And so how it shakes out financially is a big question mark, honestly. And so you add that to the movement, the player movement on top of it. I get that they're well paid, but I'm not sure I would want to be a college baseball coach these days. It seems like the absolute toughest job, and so I salute them for sticking around and sticking to it and continuing forward, because I don't know if I would have the same inclination.
That's our guy, Joe Healy, D1 Baseball. Joe, appreciate the time. Hope you enjoyed the College World Series, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, sounds good, fellas. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
That's Joe Healy from D1 Baseball.
It's weird. It's
college baseball's in a weird spot.
Kumar Rocker hasn't had the success. Rushman has had a ton of success. DeLucia I think he's in Shafe's organization with Cleveland. We know about Skeens.
We forgot about one.
Dreiling's playing. Who? Bednar?
Will Bednar.
Yeah. I was getting to him.
Okay.
I was just out of order with Will through, and it's funny too, because that's Mississippi State.
Yeah, I was at that one when he struck out like 15 or whatever it was.
Call. That was 2021.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Well, so I know a little
Rolodex. And now with Kate Anderson winning the MVP.
Yeah. We had some Jack Leiter performances too, didn't we?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I don't know if Leiter's won. I don't think Leiter won an MVP though.
He didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think.
So
but he had some nice performances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you're 1.8, a rocker, nice stat.
I know. Leiter's the one I wanted. Like the Red Sox in the draft were in a position where they thought he was going to get to him, and that's the one I wanted.
I think Bish and I had a couple of Vandy games, and there was more small talk and fillers with those guys because
he's not going to score a lot.
They weren't scoring a ton. And we thought, we were talking like that was like the golden arms of baseball.
Well, I mean, you go back, we were talking UCLA earlier.
With Pleclo?
Well, no, with Bauer and Cole.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about dudes.
Yeah. That is crazy.
I mean, especially when you translate, I know Bauer's had his issues, but in terms of,
kind of
personally, whatever. But in terms of translating that to major league success, that might be the best duo they've had.
Yeah.
Is Bauer and Cole. That's bonkers.
And the only one to get an MVP out of that staff was Plecko.
Right.
I think that was 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Which is kind of hilarious. I mean, objectively kind of funny.
Look at you with a Will Bednar reference.
If I wasn't,
again, I was going to give you a little more credit, but that is a good pull.
Honestly, if I wasn't there watching it live, I probably wouldn't have remembered. But like I remember, and I wasn't there as media, I was just watching as a fan, and I remember sitting next to Mississippi State fans and just having the time of my life because it was an incredible performance.
Contrary to popular belief, no disrespect to my LSU Go Tigers in terms of their tailgating, Mississippi State brought the best tailgate chef that's ever stepped foot in this city.
Really?
Oh, he was incredible. The Lizard. Oh, he was incredible.
People loved a lot of that when that was here.
Man.
I will say the Mississippi State folks were cool.
People took advantage of him, man.
Yeah.
It was like, you guys aren't even putting in on this. You're just eating this poor man's food. I mean, bacon wrapped duck.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This dude, kind old man too. He was legit.
There we go. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
Jake Brown, congratulations on the national championship. In 2023, you came here as a fan and watched your LSU Tigers win it all. To be a part of it, how are you soaking in this moment?
I mean, it's surreal. I don't think it's going to set in for a while. I just know that I'm super proud of all the guys around me, super proud of the coaching staff. I mean, super proud of our fans for showing up and giving us a home field advantage here today. Like I said, I just don't think it's set in yet. I don't think it will for a while, but we're going to enjoy the moment for as long as we can.
Yeah, you're a Louisiana native. You grew up going to games. Those guys were your superheroes. Now you get to be that superhero. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means the world. I mean, this is the big leagues of college baseball at LSU. So, I mean, you know that there's going to be people looking up to you when you're playing here. And that's a lot of the reason of why we play the way that we play. I mean, our team's super tough. We leave it all out there, and there was never a doubt that we were going to get this done here.
Yeah, what is it about the swagger of LSU and this program that just continues to have excellence year after year?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just baseball, it's LSU sports as a whole. I mean, if you want to win a national championship in your sport and you want to be developed and you want to be the highest level that you can be, this is where you come, and that showed here again today.
Aspirations can drive us. Sometimes a simple gesture is what fuels the pursuit of a dream. When it's time to make your dream a reality, we are here to help. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Howard here with Michael Braswell. Michael, you're a national champion. How long have you envisioned this moment?
I mean, since I was about 6, 7 years old. I mean, I've always grew up watching ESPN, watching the College World Series, and, you know, doing it with this team and this program. I mean, I couldn't have dreamt it up any better.
You didn't start here, but you came here to win a title. What is it about this program that makes winning a title possible?
I mean, start off with the fan base. You know, best fan base in college baseball, easily, not even a question. Coaching staff, I mean, the best of the best. I mean, the results speak for themselves, and, you know, just they have great people here, just in the city, on the team, and just everywhere. And, you know, I wouldn't rather be anywhere else, and Baton Rouge will always be my home forever.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
The 0-1. Ground ball towards Dickinson. Flips it to Milam. The relay to first in time. Tigers win. Tigers win for the second time in 3 seasons and the 8th time in program history. The Fighting Tigers reach the pinnacle. They stand alone atop the mountain. Your LSU Fighting Tigers, the 2025 College Baseball National Champions.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Don't forget, you got the summer specials here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill at Chicago Dog. You got Philly cheesesteak pizza. You got summer drinks as well. Come check it out, whether it's in Gretna or here at La Vista. Make sure you check out Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. All right, DB, so I know a lot of times we get a little random with stuff, but sometimes I kind of lay some breadcrumbs and try and follow them along the path here. Mm-hmm. So I asked Joe a question that I've been thinking about a lot over the last couple of weeks.
Joe Healy?
Joe Healy.
Okay.
About kind of teams' expectations when they come to Omaha and how they view their time here based on results versus just getting here in the first place. And Murray State's an obvious example you bring up, right? Because I don't think there's anybody, like, yeah, it's going to hurt the players and coaches for a while. But in a year from now, is anybody at Murray State going to be like, yeah, we went 2 in the queue in the College World Series? Or be like, holy crap, we made the College World Series 2025. How great is that? Right? Like, that's a very different experience than Arkansas next year.
Yeah.
Where Arkansas is like, man, we feel like we could have won a national championship last year. Getting to Omaha is just the start of what we're trying to accomplish. Right? And then I think about a conversation you and I and Dean Marinas had about, I don't think Padilla really chimed in on this one too much.
Padilla, big baseball guy.
About this argument that like Jay Williams was having with Stephen A. Smith about Giannis Antetokounmpo. And is he an underachiever because he only has 1 ring? And I'm kind of weighing these two things in my mind. Or LeBron last week is talking about ring culture and how this is a new thing and how it doesn't matter. And even though LeBron was wrong in his examples, because he's bringing up.
I actually.
Well, so his examples were wrong.
Okay, because I didn't have any problems with what he was saying. The problem is he lacks the self-awareness to know that he's part of the discussion because he injected himself in it, right? Not 1, not 2, not 3.
He started it.
How he landed the plane, I don't have any real problems with the talk, but he's just being disingenuous because he's part of the reason we're having that conversation.
My issue with him was that it's not just a basketball thing. We do it in football too. He was talking about how you don't see people not putting Peyton Manning in the same conversation as Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. I was like, yes, you do. Dan Marino doesn't get to be in that conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think the difference in other sports is this when all things are equal.
Well, so here's the other thing is what do you
all things being equal, I may go to championships.
What do you always say about football?
It's the ultimate team game.
Ultimate team game. There's more of an individual influence on any given game by one singular basketball player than there is in football.
Correct.
So that's why in basketball, the ring culture matters more. Like if you're LeBron James or you're Michael Jordan or you're Steph Curry, or in this case, if you're Kevin Durant, theoretically, you should have more of an impact on winning championships than Tom Brady individually does.
Mm-hmm.
Fair?
Yeah.
So I have these two things in my head at the same time, right? Where I've got, and let's stick with Giannis.
That's interesting. If I looked at it the other way.
Which way?
I would actually use the fact that it is because it is the ultimate team game, which is even more reason why Brady stands alone.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Because
that he had that big of an outsized factor on winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I 100% agree.
Like,
because I don't even think they did him a ton of favors all the time. Like, they didn't really give him a ton of weapons very often. You know, they were very, like, the defense was built in a way that was able to kind of give him a shot most of the time. But he didn't have a Joe Montana thing going on with, I've always got Jerry Rice, or I've got Roger Craig or whoever, right? It was not really offensively built in his favor. So I would agree that Tom Brady is kind of the outlier of outliers. But
with regards to getting to the CWS, for whatever the reason, I have one pushback.
Okay, let's hear. Let's hear.
I'm thinking,
let's hear.
I agree with,
because I have another example.
It's the pinnacle.
Yeah,
like it's the goal to get to Omaha. Nobody ever says to win it.
Yeah,
and I was gonna say I think that's a lot of collegiate sports, right? If the playoff field gets expanded in football, it will be used as a line of demarcation for coaching.
College football playoff.
It will be used as a line of demarcation for coaching prowess.
Yeah. Unless you're Ohio State or Georgia.
The one area in which I don't love it is making it to the field of 64.
So here, that's not what it is for basketball. It's the Final Four.
I don't think so. It's not the Final Four.
I think it is.
I think it's the Sweet 16.
So here's the thing. Again, it depends on level of program, right? Because right now, if you told me now that Creighton, hey, you're going to make the Sweet 16, I'm like, that's cool.
Name me a program you think it's not.
I think
if Shire is under the gun because he just keeps wasting 5-star talent, and he's like, man, I've made it to 7 straight Sweet 16s. You don't think that has merit?
It does, but they're still not going to be happy.
Okay, listen to what I'm telling you. That's Duke.
Yeah,
that's Duke. Would I be happy with 7 straight or 8 straight or 4 straight Sweet 16 appearances for Carolina?
At this point, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I would. That's North Carolina.
But
hang
under
on.
Roy Williams, would that have been the case still?
What programs would you say aren't in the being validated? It's kept Izzo's fans happy forever. What program is above not being able to say I get to Sweet 16s?
So
it's harder than you think.
It is harder than you think, and I agree with that. But
Elite 8 is like legendary.
So I'm not talking about being happy or satisfied with a season. I'm talking about almost not caring if you lose once you get to that point. I feel like there's a lot of teams that once you get to the Sweet 16, you're still like, oh, we've got a little bit further to go. I think in basketball, in college basketball,
it's certainly the Elite 8 then. It ended the Final Four.
So here's my thought, okay? And I do think it depends on the program.
Again,
because I've thought about this with basketball a
lot. If it depends on the program, then start with the programs that are above it, and then it'll let you know your answer. There would be a handful, 4 or 5,
but again, it's a handful in college baseball too, right? Like that's what I was talking about.
Oh, I don't know. I could name you 10 in the SEC that would be tickled just to get to Omaha.
No, I get that. I'm saying it's only a handful of teams that need to get past that in college baseball as well.
Really?
I think. You think there's more than a handful of teams that Omaha isn't the goal?
I don't know if there's any.
I mean, I also think it's a year-by-year thing.
LSU has to win it, not just get to Omaha?
This year, yes. Last year, Tennessee had to win it. Like this year, Arkansas wasn't happy.
Okay.
I think it's a year-to-year thing.
I like the Tennessee one better because that team was perceived as
unbeatable,
head and shoulders.
I mean, do you think Arkansas?
That doesn't happen a ton.
You think Arkansas is happy about how their season went?
No, but I was here.
But Murray State is.
I was happy to hear Joe agree with me.
I'll say Joe had.
Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Because I kind of felt like I was on a limb.
I didn't prep you for that, and I didn't prep him for that.
I kind of felt like I was on a limb.
Yeah.
Especially the way you asked the question.
Because
my answer didn't make much sense. Because you go,
even though they got swept.
You said, DB, they beat them twice.
I was asking. I was clarifying.
But that doesn't that's not going to deter me.
No, I know.
Right? I like it's good. It allows me to have to function under duress.
You gotta make sure you feel good about your answer.
So
I
was happy to hear him agree.
I think it's a program by program and a year by year thing. Like there's some years where LSU, they make the College World Series, they're happy. Right? There's some years where they get there and you're like, hey, we're LSU, we've got a good team, we got to win this thing. Or like there's years with Creighton where I'm happy if they make the Sweet 16. And then there's years I was like, this was probably one of those opportunities they could have broken through further.
And I don't know, man. You got to be careful.
I understand that. But I feel like I'm realistic.
It would be more an anomaly.
Right. And it's not that I'm disappointed. So if you feel like you've got an opportunity to achieve more and then you don't, that's where we talked about expectations versus results, right? That's where either happiness or disappointment comes in. If I go in and I go, okay, I really like the roster construction of this year's Creighton basketball team. I go, I think this team, I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying this for necessarily, but I go, hey, I think this team could make a Final Four. And then they only make a Sweet 16. And I feel the same way about the roster in March that I did today. And then they only make a Sweet 16. I'm going to sit there and be like, I feel like they missed an opportunity. But if they ever make a Final Four, regardless of roster, regardless of year, regardless of anything, I'm not going to sit there and be like, I really wish I could have won a national championship. I'm going to be like, holy crap, they made the Final Four.
No, I get it. I mean, I've watched Cotton and Providence, like do Carolina in. I've watched Utah. The Utes do Carolina
98.
Yeah, it's like
good old Andre Miller.
Oh yeah, and Michael Doliak and
Rick Majerus.
Yeah, so I mean, I get it to some degree. I just think the fewer teams that need that distinction,
sure,
the more you should take your foot off the gas of that being
the line of demarcation.
Yeah,
that's fair. Well, so let's use I do think year by year, I think is really important.
I mean, there's two or three programs in basketball, maybe
05 Carolina and 09 Carolina. Let's take those two teams because you knew they were going to be good going in, right?
Yeah.
So you go into those two and you go, okay, if you made the Sweet 16 in those 2 years, you'd have been pissed.
I just said bare minimum, probably. Yeah.
If you got bounced in the Sweet 16, you'd be like, that was a bad year.
Yeah.
Right? There's years where Duke goes in and they go, hey, Sweet 16 is not going to cut it. Right? The Zion, RJ, Barrett.
To not win a championship with this Duke team.
With that squad.
But.
Con Knipple and Cooper Flag and Malawak. They're going to have 3 top 10 picks. They're going to have
probably 3 top 13.
Malawak's going in the top 10. So is Knipple.
Okay. I want to be safe.
I'll bet on it if you want to. I'll take one of my $20 back if you want to.
I want to be safe. Top 10. You think Malawak goes in the 10? How about when I asked JP about Malawak yesterday? I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. I ain't looked into it anymore with the picks. I'm like, damn, JP.
He was a broken man.
He's gonna be fine.
They had to do the Suns had to do this. I like Malawak a lot. I said low key one.
I just used him because I could see
he could
him
be there at 10.
I'm like
he could be in the he'll be in the neighborhood. I think he goes 8 to 10.
I'm like, who'd you want with that pick?
Yeah.
Would you have taken Malawak? That's all I was saying.
Yeah. Malawak. I like Malawak.
To get back to something you were saying about and talking with Joe about the officiating and umps. Listen, I get it. I watched a deal a month ago where it's a youth game out west, arguing balls and strikes, meeting of the minds, and pitcher catcher intentionally didn't catch a ball and it hit the ump. This was youth baseball. Youth. And I'm like, we didn't get into it on the show because, I don't know, it just was no real deal. But I'd seen enough of the video floating out there on social media. I'm like, what is wrong with these parents and coaches? But I also saw 8U softball game, for Zoe, act the same way. Like, I'm not saying I want to be an official. I don't. And I'm not saying I want to be up. And Lord knows, we got done with 7-on-7, and I called one of the officials that I was giving a hard time to. Because I was joking with his colleague on the other side. I was like, I don't know, man. I might have to go buy him a drink or something. Like, my man is over there counting with a calendar, not a stopwatch, right? I'm messing with him, right? And so I think you have to have a certain. At what point do you have a level of appreciation for someone or something that's doing something that no one else wants to do, and how much of that are you willing to compromise the job they're doing?
So,
because you know what I don't hate. You know what I hate?
What's that?
I said don't hate. When people say, "Well, nobody else wants to do it,"
so
and that doesn't
excuse you performing poorly,
right?
So
that's
just
what don't use that.
That's what I was going to say is, listen, I appreciate that no one else wants to do it, but you signed up for it. Like, I need you to be better.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things I don't want to do. I don't want to be a brain surgeon. I still expect, if I have to go get brain surgery, for them to execute at a high level.
And most of these people, like, that I know on a local level, even if it's, I don't know Kip Kissinger or Higgy or anybody. Well, I do know Higgy very well, but pre-existing relationships don't have factored into me just chilling, right? I'm not always hard on OPD just because I have so many guys that are on. Like, I know the degree of difficulty, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you.
Yeah,
it doesn't affect.
Police is a good example.
Doesn't affect the way that I feel about it, because it does sometimes. But I don't think those guys would say, "Hey, I mean, I don't know if I could hear Higgy saying. I mean, would he say to me, "Hey, man, this is my 12th game this week, or in 2 weeks. I'm tired. I missed that call." He may be able to say that. I don't know if I could hear him saying that though.
So what's funny?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually think.
So I think there's a difference.
If a ref said that to me, I'd actually be like, okay.
Would you?
Yeah.
And you're not very forgiving.
So weirdly enough, I was just about to say this. Referees, while I'm coaching, is one of the times I'm the most generous in my life in terms of like gracious.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And I think it's purely selfish ambition, because I would sit there and I go, listen, I'm not going to get anywhere yelling at this guy. So I would just like talk to him basically in this tone of voice and be incredibly like kind as much as I could be. And if I thought that they'd miss one, I'd be like, hey,
you think that's a reason for such like the volatility is just
we start so hot,
or what if it's just the physiological, like you're just tired?
I do think it's a lot of it, especially, I mean, so basketball is a really good example of this because basketball refs work a ton.
So do baseball umpires.
Fair, but at this point in the season, Campos isn't really.
No. I'm not. I mean, I'm not just.
I know we're getting outside of Campos, but
I'm
like,
just saying.
So, like yesterday, I'm not giving him any slack at all.
I
like
mean,
that was a terrible job.
Some of these guys may do 6-7 games outside a week.
So baseball umps, basketball refs, and if somebody's like, "Hey, man," or, I mean, this used to happen when we do like tournaments and stuff. If you're doing baseball tournaments or whatever, you'd be like, "Hey, man, it's my third game today. It's 100 degrees outside. I'm sorry, I missed that one."
Yeah, and a lot of times, a lot of those guys and gals will tell you too.
And I'll be like, "All right, we're cool."
I think one of Zoe's games was umpired by a 12-year-old.
Or you know what I'll tell them? I'll be like, all right, you owe me one. And they usually laugh, and I'm like, and then you move on. And then guess what? I usually get one back.
Yeah.
Like.
I thought Joe's point was interesting about, because he did, even though I asked to not factor in the personality, I think, because of the degree of difficulty of the question, he just was like.
I think you have to a little bit.
He's like, I think we saw a guy that's pretty emotional, and he wanted to nip it in the bud. And I'm like, do I like that?
I don't
know either.
So here's my thing.
But I did understand the response.
I get, and Joe himself said he didn't agree with the thought process, but he thought that's what the thought process was. My thing is this, right? Anytime you're in a place of enforcing rules, so teacher, umpire, referee, police officer, whatever, right? I believe your primary goal, unless someone's in immediate danger or in a sport that the game itself is in danger of you're not able to play it correctly, then you should try and give as much leeway as possible and de-escalate as much as possible. Most of the time in any situation, de-escalation is probably the right move. And the only thing that keeps us from doing that most of the time is ego. Most of the time.
Gotcha.
Unless there is imminent danger, which again in baseball is not really a factor. But unless the game it will substitute imminent danger with imminent interruption, right? Kevin Schnall is not standing on the plate, like you said, right? There's nothing going on there. Or in a classroom, most of the time there's not imminent danger, although there can be. But like if teaching is not being allowed to take place, then you have to kind of escalate and figure things out that way. But for the most part, if you're in a place where you're enforcing rules, and there's a reason I don't want any of these jobs. I want to be clear about that. It's hard, and I have no interest in trying to do it. And I also know myself in understanding I'm probably not the skill set or temperament to do that well.
Yeah.
But if you choose to do it, and maybe I'm asking for too much self-awareness out of other people, and that happens a lot. But if you choose to do it, I need you to do it well. I just do. And there's listen, if you're in a mid-April game and you're umpiring Coastal Carolina and you're just sick of Kevin Schnall that day, go ahead and run him. I don't care. It's fine. But context matters. As with everything else in life, context matters. First inning of the championship, probably need to give that guy a little bit longer leash.
And I'm 48 years old. I shouldn't get shooed by another grown man.
I'm telling you, for whatever the reason. That resonated with me.
Yeah. You'd have lost it.
That resonated with it's.
If a referee at a West Side game shooed you,
and I'm 48
how would that go?
Yeah, it's different than. Yeah, that would be different than, hey, man, I'm going to need you to get back.
Yeah, different. Way different.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, bud, can you give me some space?
Yeah.
Like, just give me a little bit here. I hear you. I can hear you. Just give me a little space.
Yeah. I remember we were playing.
I've seen you on the sidelines with refs.
Yeah.
Like, you've got a back and forth with most of them.
Yeah, it's
fine.
Because I know those guys, though.
And you'll crack a joke if there's a little tension.
Yeah.
Like, I pay pretty close attention when I'm on those, like, because I like to see how people interact.
I do, because I do tell, I am.
Because you'll feel the tension a little bit. You'll crack a joke. You'll back off it a little bit. And then you'll kind of wait until you need to ramp it up a little bit more.
I was kind of disappointed with the coverage of it on television because every time that they cut away, something would happen. And then they'd have to cut back.
It was pretty fluid.
It was pretty fluid. I wish they would have just stayed right on.
I almost missed Schilling. I almost missed the first base coach getting run.
I know. Yeah.
Because his was real.
His was quick.
So you know what I was going to ask, Joe? Maybe they need to have like George Carlin or
Like
there's always magic words that get you run.
And it does seem like
maybe they need to come to a consensus on what that is.
What those words are?
Because that seems fairly simple.
Yeah.
It takes the subjectivity and the mood out of it.
Yeah. It's like the FCC. When we were on terrestrial radio, we know, hey, these are the words you can't say.
Yeah.
And it was pretty clear. And so we didn't say those words. Now we dance around them a little bit.
And I guess what happened on Saturday was what was driving me crazy the whole last 6 weeks about the double standards in sports.
Yeah.
Because I had just seen it too much. And it was and I said this, it's getting out of hand with college baseball.
I think it's a baseball problem, not a women's sports versus men's sports problem.
But it wasn't the point wasn't to say.
No, I know. It's a cultural sport.
I don't like what's going on. I'm like, why is it okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of why it's okay is because it's understood that it is going to go on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the culture of the sport. This is what happens. It's fine. Nothing bad happens from it.
I can blow double gun barrels, swipe two, tap my hip.
I mean, the way that pitchers yell at batters,
which is to me a lot more
way more disrespectful,
egregious than staring at an official or
framing a ball
for more than 2 seconds on the way back to the dugout and getting run.
Turn
48.
Or like
years
let's say you're the
Like,
home plate umpire, right?
Like
I'm a lefty batter.
What is going on?
You're home plate umpire. I'm the lefty batter. I'm looking at the pitcher. You call strike on something. I go, I can get run for that. What I just did, I can get run for that in baseball.
Yeah.
And most people are like, oh, it's cool.
Determiner, he's right, man. Fudge. Like, really? Like, what are we talking about?
We're talking about baseball being too precious about itself sometimes. That's what we're really talking about. And umpires thinking like they're.
And that's definitely not the way that I could have foreseen my anxiety coming to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not surprised. I've seen way worse in regular season college baseball.
Yeah. We saw worse in the regionals, in the super regionals.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm still mad about Link Jarrett getting ran. But
Hey, go back and check out East Carolina.
Yeah.
Over what? He looked back over his shoulder.
Look at Mississippi State, man.
Oh, yeah.
Look at last year with the
head tap.
Head tap with Florida.
They just can't do it twice.
I mean, Jack Caglione could have got ran for the way he went around the bases.
Oh, with his arms
Yeah,
down?
because mocking the umpire, showing him up.
Well,
right?
his other guy had just gotten in trouble with home run before that.
I know. Like, baseball is a little too precious sometimes. As much as I love it, I know you love it too. We'll be back tomorrow. More Hurrdat Sports Live.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.